experiencing Conversations from the Darkside. Please stand by.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the fourth installment for 2025 of Conversations from the Darkside. My name is Amigo Aaron, humbly yours, joined tonight, as always, by a man who's well known for his brilliance on the mic. He's got a master's degree in darkness with a minor in communication. Please welcome Rob Flack O'Hara.
How are you tonight, Aaron?
Beautiful. As a wolfman talking to you, brother. Beautiful. That's a great introduction, Flack, because you may not have noticed this, but tonight's topic, werewolves and changelings. By the way, misspelled changelings 13 times. Getting ready for the show. Who knew there was an E in there? That sucks. But mostly werewolves, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's topic, Flacker, here we are. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago when we talked about curses, but here we are in 2025. Are werewolves the legend of, the threat of? Are they still relevant in 2025?
As I was looking this week on some of the things about werewolves, I think werewolves and many of the other things that we've talked about are still relevant, but the areas that we're seeing reports from may be shifting, and there could be reasons for that. We could talk about that. We will talk about that later tonight. But are there as many reports of werewolves in Times Square? Not as many, but we're seeing numbers go up, in South America, and there's a lot of reports in Asia, some of these outer lying areas. So is that because those areas don't have as much technology, or is that because things are migrating away from technology and these high populated areas? Who knows?
Very interesting take there. I'm excited. I'm fired up to talk about werewolves tonight. Me and Flack, before the show, were talking about stuff happening in the real world, and I told him, I was like, let's just talk about werewolves and just ignore that. And then the theme kicked on. I got more fired up. And before we get deep into the show, I want to give some shout-outs, which I should have done. I mean, they're in the credits, but I want to give them proper shout-outs. We talked about it before the show in the chat. All the music you hear on Conversations from the Darkside is provided by our good buddy, Bark Bit. He's a talented musician, and he's a master with mod files. So I want to salute Bark Bit. I want to mention that all our incredible titles, all of the zooming, text, and whatnot, that's all done by legendary producer, the Dunker, Duncan Styles, who's been he's been with us forever. And Dunk has done so much for me on all the shows, and Barkbit. They've both done a lot of great work for me, and I want to make sure that they get called out. And then lastly, a lot of people wonder who is the lovely lady that does our call-ins and call-outs during the commercials and does a little creepy sayings during the pre-show. That's everyone's favorite Mac owner, the Macintosh librarian, Kate Fox, who generously recorded this for me a few years ago and has called into the show multiple times with ghost stories and stuff. She's a big fan of ghosts and the paranormal. So before we get started proper, I want to give them a shout-out. I mean, you can't deny the fact that people far more talented than we are sort of hoisting us up to keep us from looking as stupid as normal, Flag.
You know what? It's definitely a package thing, all these things that we do on the internet. There's always, there's people that aren't maybe their faces aren't in front of the camera, and probably all those people are better looking than us. So we should get them in front of the camera. But they all add to that stuff. So it's certainly appreciated all the work that they've done.
So please, if you would, I beseech you, check out Barkbit stuff. He's got I think he's got a YouTube page of his work. Just look up Barkbit. Of course, you can find Kate Fox at the Macintosh Librarian. She's killing it out there, Flack. She was just at VCF Midwest and was a featured guest up on the stage with all the big players. And Duncan Styles, a man who needs no introduction, but he is the producer and occasional speaker on This Week in Retro. So please check out their channel as well, which is a great channel. Another one of our buddies, Dave Velociraptor, who's a longtime friend of the show, is on there, along with the Gema. He's a great guy. Neil is a good friend of ours. I haven't met the new fellow, but he seems like a real intelligent fellow, so please check them out as well. They're all fine folks. Now, with that out of the way, Flack, let's get into a little news macabre. Ooh, yeah. So, here we are talking about werewolves, and I always look for news. I'm like, what can I find? And lo and behold, just a couple weeks ago, like out of the blue, there's a news story on the Today Show website of all places, Flag. And bam, are werewolves real? Everything you need to know about the legendary lycanthropes. It's a pretty good article, Flag. And they go through and they sort of discuss the origins of werewolves in modern culture. And you can sort of trace that back to one place, can't you? Because you had it mentioned here. Give us a scoop.
Well, there's super old references to werewolves. There's things thousands of years BC, but a lot of the stuff could be traced back to the Wolfman movie from 1941.
It's crazy.
I was surprised when I was looking up some of the things about when, who was the first person, when did it come about that you could kill a werewolf with a silver bullet? I mean, it goes back to that movie. So, a lot of the legends and the stuff surrounding, werewolves and stuff like that really could be traced back to that. This is a super cool article, though. I don't know if
it really was. Had you ever heard of the werewolf trials? Had you ever heard of this?
No.
Yeah,
no,
I'd never heard of this. There were trials in the 1700s, all the way into the 1700s, where people were burned for being werewolves. I mean, and listen, how do you talk your way to that one? That's a tough sell. It's not like a witch where you might have a shot. I guess it seems like it would be tough to try a werewolf because, how are you going to prove that unless they change right in front of you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems like, before, I read that before the whole silver bullet thing, that the most common way that people thought that you would get rid of a werewolf is to burn them, burn the body, which is bad if you're accused of being one.
Yeah. It's burning the body usually takes care of most problems, if you notice that.
That's true.
They usually do it.
Throughout history.
I will say that the article, very tastefully, at the very bottom, where they actually address their opening, byline, are werewolves real? Probably not. It's pretty much what they say. Probably not real.
I enjoy it. So first of all, here's what I'll say. Number one, for being an article on today.com, it is super long and detailed and in-depth. So, there's a lot of stuff that it runs through. But I couldn't help but feeling just a little sorry for the intern that signed up for the Today Show to do some hard-hitting news reporting and got to sign this story.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a strange one. But it is serendipitous that this would come out so soon before we did a show on werewolves, and I was stunned to see it. Now, one thing me and you are big fans of, Flack, it's UFOs. When we don't talk as much as we should, that's going to be something probably next season where UFOs will come back around. But this was an interesting article. I don't know if you had a chance to look at this one, Flack. Panic or Prophecy. This is an article about 2 moons continuous UFO sightings. Let me read a little quibble from this thing. So it's called, the article begins, the internet is in uproar after a Harvard astrophysicist, Dr. Avi Loeb, not to be confused with Lisa Loeb, warned people to take vacations before October 29th, hinting that something extraordinary might happen in space. This article is just a couple days old, by the way. His remarks come as reports of a strange 2 moons in the night sky, ongoing UFO sightings, and the discovery of an interstellar object named 31/Atlas stir public anxiety. While scientists insist there's no cause for alarm, they always say that. Speculation about an imminent alien event is spreading faster than a meteor shower. Now, before we address this properly, I'm going to say this. Most years, when I hear this kind of thing, they're like, oh, here comes an alien event. I'm like, some more baloney. But this year, Anything goes. I'm buying everything.
It's all on the table.
Have you heard about this? Have you heard anything about this before you read this article?
Here's what's amazing to me. I had read I had heard about this. There's one thing that's hurtling towards Earth that they said is like the size of Manhattan, right? Like it's a pretty big rock that's flying through space, right? And then I saw someone online mention that there's a possibility that they're calling this other thing the second moon, and I'm like, nah, it's not a second moon. It's this thing from this big rock, and they're like, no, it's another one. I'm like, we got two things.
Yeah.
There's two different things at the same time. Like, I don't like that, right? I mean, right, my first thought about this is, we got to get someone else. We got to hire somebody that's in charge of naming these things. Like we shouldn't call this like 31X2B 499 whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like it's got to be like, Killer Rock 7, or I mean, like let's give it some, let's give it a little character, right?
It's funny you should say that because just to continue on the article, experts urge calm amid growing panic. If the rock was named Killer Rock 7, I don't think the experts would be too happy with that.
Then you go the other side. You go, listen, it's called Shirley. It's a nice rock. Hey, here's what I like about this thing is. And I'm going to tell you this. This is not, not doing a bit, not doing anything like that. But I'm sure you've read that there has been a huge increase of people reporting UFO sightings as these things have started coming around. Now,
yes.
I don't necessarily think that UFO sightings are related to these rocks. Maybe they are. Maybe it's like, when the plane, like when the Harrier jet comes in, and then you got the other, like the other planes flanking it. Maybe that's what's going on, But the reality, what I really, really do think is that people are looking up at the sky more right now, right?
Yeah.
And so they go, oh, there's this giant rock, and they get a telescope, and they go, well, what's that other thing, And so maybe it's not a wave of UFOs. Maybe there's stuff up there a lot, and people are taking a break from looking into their phones and looking up at the sky for a little bit. Now they're starting to see stuff.
Keyboard G chimes in because he's up in New Jersey. That's my old stomping grounds, and he says we had a ball this year with our drones and UFOs. No doubt. I will say, just to conclude this article, I want to read the last part of this. Despite the mounting speculation, astronomers and space agencies maintain that there is no reason to panic. The European Space Agency stated there's no credible evidence that supports claims of an alien encounter or threat linked to the 31 Atlas. NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab also reiterated that the object will pass safely millions of kilometers from Earth. Dr. Loeb, whose comments triggered the uproar, later clarified that he did not predict disaster. Instead, he said, take a vacation. He said that the take a vacation remark was a call for people to appreciate life and remain curious about what lies beyond. Now listen, Loeb, you quack. You can't break out that something bad's happening on the 29th, coach, and then come back with this. I just meant love life crap. This guy needs to be taken in a room full of other doctors and smacked around with pillows for a while to get the message. It says here to close the article, still for many, the combination of two moons, interstellar visitors, and unexplained lights in the sky feels too coincidental to ignore. And I think we can all agree that if aliens were to plan on coming down and the government had any knowledge about it, they could tell us. They never tell us nothing.
Right. Well, if you want to do a alien invasion, you know what a good idea would be? Hide behind a giant rock.
Yeah.
Like I think that's not a bad thing, And so this Dr. Loeb, he's like, don't worry, it's okay. But you know what I say to Dr. Loeb? You only hear what you want to.
Oh.
Wait, that's Lisa Loeb. Oh.
We were just chatting about Lisa Loeb in the chat, and we're all big fans. Now, here's one. It's a lot more lighthearted than the impending death of the world. What we've got here is, well, it's not that lighthearted now that I think about it. $5,000 worth of Halloween candy stolen from Minnesota man's porch. So get this, Flack. This right here, by the way, is a sign of the times, I hate to say. A trick-or-treating enthusiast from Nevis, Minnesota says a bulk candy delivery worth over $5,000 and weighing 100 pounds disappeared from his front steps. for about 5 years, Mike Wade said he ordered enough candy to give out 5 handfuls to each child on Halloween in his community in Hubbard County in northern Minnesota. On the big night, Wade said he keeps buckets and buckets of candy on hand to give to the madhouse of kids who descend on his house. But now, unfortunately, you know how it went down. Someone snuck up on his porch and hoarded all his candy. That is a ton of candy right there. For like 5,000. I mean, not this year. It's not as much candy as you would have gotten a couple years ago. It's still a goodly amount. What do you say to people that pull this kind of trick?
You know, I mean, they keep warning us about porch pirates and people coming. You know, they're going to take your stuff out of your mailbox, take stuff off your porch. You would think 100-pound box sitting on the porch would be safe, but apparently not. Now, I will tell you that I mean, when I read the thing that said it was $5,000, I was like, that's excessive. That's a lot of candy, right? But
you didn't price candy.
Right, well,
yeah.
Chocolate's going up.
Yeah, it is.
I have over the past, I would say 3 or 4 years, we have started handing out full-size candy bars.
Yeah.
And so we don't buy as much candy as we used to. You know, I mean, we used to have like pounds and pounds and pounds of the little Skittles and whatever, right? So now we have less. But the only reason why we do that is because when I was a kid, you know, you remember, like, if you went to that house and you got a full-size candy bar, it like made your whole night, you know? And I want to reward those kids that are out trick-or-treating that are still, like, you know, they're doing what we did as kids, right? So I get the spirit behind what the guy's doing. Like, I support that. Like I said, $5,000 is an awful lot. And I don't know if you read at the bottom of the article, but it said that he appealed, you know, to like Amazon and stuff. And they said, there's nothing we can do about it because, you know, it was delivered. Like, it got to your house. So once it's on your porch, it's your problem. Yeah. And he was able to do a chargeback on his credit card. But then he said immediately what he did was he bought another $5,000 worth of candy. So, I mean, he really wants to do this, you know. Now, this is the thought I had when I read the article. You know, a lot of times if you watch the nightly news, they'll say something like someone got caught for shoplifting. And then they'll say, be on the lookout. Or sometimes people will get caught stealing things, and they'll say, hey, go check out local pawn shops. Keep an eye out, right? But here's what you got to do. You got to go talk to all the local dentists. Because anybody that steals $5,000, 100 pounds of candy, they're going to end up, at some point, they will be at the dentist. And then that's how you're going to catch these people. That's my theory.
Well, I mean, if you've ever seen Steve Martin's turn as the dentist in Little Shop of Horrors, it's been my opinion that most dentists are bonkers, and I try to stay away from them. They've never done me any favors. I can tell you that right now. But you know, when it comes to, you know, I salute this man first of all. You know, chocolate is up. That's a shoot. And I was listening to a story on NPR today, and they said that the problem is that, you know, I don't know, I didn't know this. Maybe you do, but in most of the cocoa plants are in Africa, northern Africa. Mm-hmm. And they've had bad years, just bad years of harvest. So cocoa is up like double. It's double. So keep that in mind. Now, how is this being dealt with? Well, number one, if you know, there's big first of all, they raised all the prices, duh. You know, then these big grab bags of candy, they've put less chocolate pieces in it, more like Tootsie, or more like stuff like Sweet Tarts and gummy bears. And by the way, the gummies and Sweet Tarts are up, like, they're up as a bought item for Halloween. Like, they're up like 50% or 30% because they're cheaper, you know. And then secondly, get this. This is diabolical. They're like stuff like a Snickers bar, stuff that has like nougats. They put way more nougat nuts in there and less chocolate. So even the candy you're getting, it has less chocolate in it than it did. You know, listen, no one cuts a corner like the candy companies. You know what I mean? They'll cut. You know I'm right, Flack. They'll hose you. Listen, I'm in America. We don't get the good chocolate over here anymore. We get the dud chocolate. All the good chocolate's over in Europe. So we didn't get the good chocolate. Now we're getting less of the bad chocolate. So this guy's $5,000, sadly, was spent on crappy candy, and the next batch will be also crappy. Now, most kids won't mind. Kids just go out and they get candy. But you're right. When you give out full bars like that, I salute you, by the way, Flack. And we're going to do the same thing because I love Halloween and I love trick-or-treaters. We get so few that I want to salute these young men and women who are actually getting out of the house with their parents and take care of business just like I did back in the day, because I'm afraid we're going to lose that tradition one of these days with all the alternatives to trick-or-treating and the fact that it's expensive.
I'm sure I've told this story in previous years past, but when my kids were young, when we were young, trick-or-treating was Halloween night, right? You went out on Halloween night. I mean, and by the way, when I was a kid, if Halloween night was on a Wednesday or a Sunday, it didn't matter. You still did it on those nights. So of course, as we got older now, like in where I live, if it's on Sunday night, they go, well, trick-or-treat night's on Saturday, and I don't even like that, right?
No.
But when my kids were little, they started doing the thing where they go, hey, we're gonna trick-or-treat at the zoo, right? And then we're gonna trick-or-treat at the school. And then we're going to trick-or-treat at the daycare. And then we're going to do this. And then we're going to go to the fall party. And then we're going to, and one year on Halloween night, my kids came to me and they said, Dad, we got enough candy. We don't want to do it anymore. We've got enough.
Man.
And I was like, and here's the thing, as a father, you're like, I get it. I love my kids. And I understand. And I leaned over to him and I said, you get that mask on. You get your ass out there. You go and trick or treat, whether you like it or not. I'm telling you, all those other things are optional. Going out on Halloween night, that's the big. You can do the other ones are optional, but on Halloween night, you gotta go out there.
I love that. I love what you did there. And I will say, me and Luke went out every year we could. But here's the problem. Man, they don't care. Like, candy's not. We've mentioned this in previous years, but candy's not it's like gold and jewels to a child back when I was a kid. Cause it's not like you were swimming in candy. I remember taking my kid to one of these things at the mall. It's like, go around with your bucket at the mall, wear your costume. And I thought to myself, this is an indignity. This is low end. Then I went to one of these town things where you stand in line for like an hour to get a couple pieces of candy from a geek who stand at the front of the line. You're there with all these other parents who can't wait to leave. I'm thinking to myself, is this what the brilliant holiday of Halloween, is this what it's been reduced to? Standing in line with a bunch of geeks. I was like, this isn't what Halloween's supposed to be about at all. Like, my parents didn't even go with me for Halloween. I mean, for most years, that was a free time. You went out with your boys, and you went out and ran around, and maybe you did pull some mischief. It's part of the fun. So when you're out there holding the kid's hand as you trounce around the mall, you really are leaving a lot of the spirit of the holiday behind. You're ripping the soul out of Halloween.
You know what? Here's my pet peeve. When we had someone not in our last neighborhood that went all out on the decorations for Halloween. They had like zombies, they had ghosts hanging from the trees, they had like body parts out, like the whole thing, right? And some of the people in the neighborhood started complaining, and they said, it's a little too scary. You know what I say? Move to another neighborhood. Because that's too bad for you. Like, that's what Halloween is like, it's supposed, and I'm not scary in a way like kids are gonna get hurt, but it's always been, it's scary like an amusement park ride. You know what I mean? Like a guy might jump out at you and scare you, or that. And let me tell you, I'm a grown man. I just went to Spirit Halloween. I almost fell down. They have this display in the middle that looks like a subway car. And I was walking through, and there are things like there's a rat that wiggles and stuff. And I mean, I almost fell. This thing, I thought I was being electrocuted, And then I laughed and I laughed, I mean, at the time when I almost fell, I wasn't laughing, but you know what I mean? Like, that's the enjoyment of it all. That is Halloween, So I hate when they take that stuff. They're trying to take that stuff out of it, because that's I feel like nothing should ever change, and we should do everything the way we did it when we were 10.
I agree. And just to close this article about this poor fellow who almost lost 5 G's, to the man that stole this, if somehow you see this broadcast or hear it, screw you, pal. Give that candy back. because karma is real, and you don't steal kids' Halloween candy. That is dirty pool. So this will show you this next article here. I've got two we're going to kind of put together here. It's funny. I picked these up from the end. I didn't know about these. These are both within the last few days. Okay, this isn't like I went trolling from years and years ago. This is like stuff that's come up right today. This is as topical as today's headlines. Both these from India. The first one was from the India Tribune, October 23rd. 4 held for practicing witchcraft. This was at the Shurgar village. That sounds like something that H.P. Lovecraft would put together. Near the Chandigarh bypass in Harsherpur. So what happened was some villagers reported that they had been at the gates of a crematorium outside their village. And they noticed some people there who were not from the village. And the people, there were 4 individuals who were there, and they were allegedly they had spread a black cloth at the crematorium. They had ground and placed eggs, alcohol, and other items near it, and they were accused, or the villagers thought they were practicing witchcraft here at the crematorium, and they were arrested. They were taken to the Sadar police station for questioning. One of the individuals, known as Baba, was the ringleader of these witches. The police have taken the individuals into custody, and they're questioning them. Now, I haven't got to see how this turns out, but what do you think about the fact that that this sort of thing, people are being accused of witchcraft or skullduggery, even in 2025? Do you think is this a case where these other countries are steeped in paranoia or weird religious beliefs, or are these people just like you and me, and they saw something that they thought wasn't fit to be going out the crematorium, and they called the cops?
Well, I mean, didn't you say they had like a black sheet and they're at the crematorium and
and booze and eggs?
Like, you know what? They're not up to any good. No. Let's just say that. They're not, like they're not having omelet class, right? They're doing something weird. So, I mean, like, you got to get to the bottom of that. You know what I mean? And like, here's the thing: is let's say it's real. Put this in air quotes, whatever. Real witchcraft, right? Versus a bunch of people that think that they're witches and they're trying to do something. Is there any difference? Like, I mean, maybe if you were the recipient of said spell, maybe, but I mean, as far as like going there and doing whatever they're doing, like whether or not it's they're successful at what they're doing, like there's still a problem, So I normally I wouldn't say this, but in this particular case, I'm not on the witch's side. I think if you're going to do that, you got to do it somewhere else.
Fair enough. Now, as if on cue, we also found another article here, and this one is from the Times of India. I'm all over India, and this one, elderly man thrashed in Chhatra for practicing witchcraft. A 62-year-old man was brutally attacked in the Chhatra district, allegedly accused of witchcraft. 4 villagers reportedly assaulted Umesh Ray, severing a portion of his ear with a sharp weapon. Flack. They gave this guy the full ear treatment. The injured man was hospitalized and referred for further treatment. Police have registered a case and detailed the suspect and kept for questioning. So this is a guy who was practicing witchcraft. It doesn't really get into much of what he was allegedly doing, but during the attack, the assassins used a sharp knife to cut part of his ear off. He also sustained other injuries. He also smacked around his kid for this. What do you think about the fact that there are people being assaulted for the witchcraft in India here?
I got a few thoughts about this. First of all, the very top, I don't like the fact that a guy who's 62 is referred to as an elderly man. I don't like that. I feel like we're way too we're closer to 62 than not 62.
Yeah.
So I don't like that. I think first of all, India, I mean, they're going to come at you with the social justice, right?
No.
Like, I think you get caught with, yeah, you get caught, you're down at the market. Like, okay, so you're down at the market. Here, think of all these movies we've seen. Yeah. You're down at the market, you get caught shoplifting, you go to trial. No, they cut your hands off, right? Yeah. I mean, they're going to deal with you right then and there. Yeah, so I mean,
is that really the way they do it?
Absolutely. Today in 2025, I've seen it on YouTube. No, I don't know, but so I mean, there's a deal. You're practicing witchcraft. You're going to get the Reservoir Dogs treatment. I mean, they're coming at you. You're losing an ear. I mean, and then now you're marked. I mean, this is like a Scarlet Letter thing. You go walking around, they're like, oh, there's Half Lear Bob. He's the witch. Like we know who he is. So. I mean, I don't like whooping up on the kids so much, unless, like, if you've seen Rosemary's Baby, I mean, if this kid has like hooves for feet.
I think the kid was in his 40s, to be fair.
Oh, that's true. He's 62. So
he may or may not have had hooves like Rosemary's Baby.
Right. He turns around. He's got some like little horns coming out. I'm gonna say, well, you might be losing an ear too. That's on you. But it is strange that the thing that this article was lacking was what he was doing.
Yeah, it was killing me.
That led up to this. Because if it's like they go, hey, this guy said. Well, I'm stereotyping. I was going to say something like he's doing witchcraft to like affect the crops or something, but I mean, he could also be affecting, cryptocurrency trading or whatever. I mean, like whatever's happening in India, right? And then it's like he's doing witchcraft. So when they call and try to tell me that my thing isn't paid and they try to get my money on the phone, I don't know what's happening. But the here's my point: is that like if he was doing something, like he said, "Hey, I'm gonna do something," and that happened, now you've got a case where you're like, "Well, we got a witch on our hands, folks. Get the razors." But like I don't know what it was that led up to that. If they were like, "Hey, there's old," I forgot what the guy's name is, but. There's the old weirdo guy in his house, and boy, he never comes out. And here's the deal: we got to kill him. Like I'm not so much for that because, frankly, I feel like in 10 years that could be me. So I'm not for that.
First of all, the fact that you could use witchcraft to affect the cryptocurrency market seems as logical to me as just being in the cryptocurrency market. So I have no problem with that. If you could do some sort of angle. To affect that. I agree with you on the 62 thing. I'm not gonna bury this guy. I'm gonna stand up for him because here's the thing: people do weird stuff. All right. I remember one time when I lived up on the mountain, it was raining, and I had a raccoon living in my attic, and so I was out in the rain at 2 a.m. with a big long stick, and I was wearing my old. I had remember when you graduate, you get a gown. All right, remember that thing?
Yeah, sure.
So I used to use that as like a night robe, all right? So I had that on.
You said the raccoon was wearing one.
No, the raccoon was up in the ceiling, and I was pounding on the ceiling with a like a rake or something, and I actually locked myself out of the house and in the rain, and I was just standing there, and I'm so mad. Here I am trying to break into my own house at 3 a.m. wearing this outfit, and I thought to myself, this right here, someone's going to wander by and think to themselves, here's an occultist. Or a madman, and I'm not sure they're wrong. So, I mean, people could get stuck in weird situations. So, for example, the crematorium guys, listen, maybe they're hungry. They're going to have, all they had was a black blanket, right? It happens.
They were just having a picnic.
They got eggs, they got booze. So, yeah, the guy likes his eggs diced. I can understand that. I mean, they went behind the gate of where the crematorium is to keep the dogs away from their eggs. There you go. There's your explanation. So, I'm not going to bury these guys.
Here's what I'm going to say. Bad things happen, right? Like I can understand you get locked out of your house. You get locked out. There's a weird story. But I walk by and I see that happening. First thing I'm doing, cutting that guy's ear off.
Yep.
That's my first go-to right there. And then we'll ask questions. Cut first, ask questions later. You can't take too many chances with witchcraft. That's what I say.
Listen, that's a good segue to get us out of this first segment. Now, listen, we've got a stacked show tonight, everybody. When we come back from the break, we're going to be talking about historical werewolves, Then we're going to get into modern werewolves. You're not safe now. Don't even think for a minute you can like walk outside a full moon. You're going to get got. And then lastly, we're going to get to werewolves in modern culture and modern art, cinema. We're going to get into that aspect of lycanthropy, if you will. So stick around. We'll be back after this break. You're watching Conversations from the Darkside.
You are experiencing Conversations from the Darkside.
That's right, Jim. We're here on the grounds where the most recent Mothman sighting has occurred, and I gotta say, it's pretty creepy out here. It was last seen around Point Pleasant, West Virginia, terrorizing 2 elderly ladies. The poor old ladies were just trying to enjoy their bingo night when Mothman appeared out of nowhere. Oh,
Do not fear the Mothman. Please leave all windows and doors unlocked when you come to visit Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Just a gravel star on a mountain road. From all the tales I've been told, there's a monstrous ape soaked in sap atop a genuine 50s tourist trap. Step right up, that'll be $6. And when the tour bell rings, you gotta trust your luck. No hypertension or vertigo if you wanna dive in that mystery hole.
You are experiencing Conversations from the Darkside.
Oh, man, we are back. We're on fire tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because we're excited, real excited, to talk about werewolves and the occasional changeling that rolls into the mix. We're going to lead the werewolf portion of the show tonight by looking at werewolves as they appeared in history. You know, Flack mentioned earlier that a lot of the tropes about werewolves sort of debuted with the old Wolfman movie, Universal movie from the 50s. But let me tell you something. Werewolves were around many decades before that movie was made. We're going to start off. Flack's looked up a pretty interesting bit here. Go ahead, Flack. What do you got?
Well, you know, I was doing some research. I was trying to find like the oldest reference I could find to werewolves, and werewolf, you know, specifically being a person changing into a wolf. Of course, we have lots of different shapeshifters and lycanthropes, you know, things like that. But that's what I was specifically looking for, and I found a story that goes all the way back to ancient Mesopotamia, and that is in the it's the story of the Epic of Gilgamesh, and this was written around 2100 BC. So this is almost 4,000 years old. And so, you know, in this story, we've got Gilgamesh, and he refuses to become the lover of Ishtar. And the reason that he does not want to be with Ishtar is because she says, or because the story is that she had turned her previous lover into a wolf. And so it's this idea of the story that, you know, she could cast a spell basically and turn someone into a wolf, or a person that changes into a wolf. So this is like I said, this is 4,000 years ago, but this really kind of plants that seed, you know, that we first have of people turning into wolves. Now, there was the biggest story, I mean, if you're going to go back to werewolf history, is you got to go back to the ancient Greece, because we have the story of King Lycaon. Now, if Lycaon, Lycaon, and if that sounds like lycanthrope, that's not a coincidence. But we have the story of King Lycaon of Arcadia, and he was turned into a wolf by Zeus. Because apparently it was as a punishment for serving the god human flesh. So Zeus skipped the ear cutting and went right to the turning into a wolf. So the Greek gods didn't mess around quite as much. But I mean, this is an old, ancient story, and of course all the old mythology stuff that got passed around. But this story is actually was referenced by a lot of writers. Ovid, in his story Metamorphoses, that it references this. That was written in 8 A.D. and then. Even Plato, in his story, The Republic, which was written in 380 BC, references this. So, there is, a lot of, there's old history of this myth of people being turned into wolves. Now, like we said, a lot of the more modern things that we think of, are attributed more to like the universal, the Wolfman and things like that. But that concept of people turning into wolves is really old.
It's just, by the way, this is a little tidbit of what you mentioned. They fed poor Zeus human flesh. The old human flesh. Have you ever heard anyone talk about what human flesh actually tastes like?
It tastes like chicken.
I mean,
right? Is that what
maybe, I don't know. There are people out there that would know, but I'll tell you, I'm around humans a lot. Like, for example, today I was in the joint. You know what I mean? The detention center in Kentucky. Listen, there's not enough boiling that would make me consume any of these people. Not to mention, I can tell you right now, the meat is spoiled. I promise you. You may turn into something, but it's probably going to be a fentanyl fiend if you were to consume any of these people. But it's interesting that it's an interesting thing that it goes that far back. I mean, honestly, that's further back than I would have anticipated. I found a really good article on mental floss I want to talk about, because it sort of dovetails in nicely with the history of these guys. I want to put mental floss over, but if you don't read their stuff, they got a lot of good stuff on mental floss. But I want to talk about some historical werewolves. They had a great article on this. Why don't you go through a few of these, Flack? I want to get your thoughts on them. So these are in no particular order. The only written record of the case of Peter Stubb, the werewolf of Bedburg, is a pamphlet that circulated in London. One of the things I liked about London in the 14 to 1500s, and even all the way into the 1800s, like they used to circulate like pamphlets and little dime novels and books and stuff. And this is one of those. And so Peter Stubb was greatly inclined to do foolish things, and so he made a deal with the devil in 1589 to basically bring malice to men, women, and children. So how do you do that? Well, of course, you make a deal with the devil. That's how. The devil. So get this. The devil gave him a belt, right? I don't mean a shot of whiskey. This is a pants holding up belt, which when you put it on, he was turned into the likeness of a greedy, devouring wolf. And here's a great quote here from the actual document. It says, "Strange and mighty, with eyes great and large, which in the night sparkled into brands of fire, a mouth great and wide, with most sharp and cruel teeth, a huge body, and mighty paws. And no sooner should he be put off the same girdle, but presently he should appear in the former shape, according to the proportion of a man, as if he'd never been changed." So basically, when he took the belt off, he just looked like a regular schlub. The pamphlet mentions that Stubb was a serial killer who murdered and sometimes ate his victims over a 25-year period. Of course, he also did some other bad stuff. There's a little incest in there with his daughter. He ate his own son. That's not very cool, when you do that. When he was captured, he told all the people about the deal with the devil and the magic belt. He confessed to murder, incest, and cannibalism, and he's executed October 31. Get it? October 31, 1589. I love that. Now get this. You don't just, when a guy makes a deal with the devil, you don't just hang him or shoot him or stab or burn him. He was lashed to a wheel where the flesh was torn from his body with red-hot pincers. Next, his arms and legs were broken, his head was chopped off, and his body was burned. Stubbs' girlfriend was also accused of incest, and she was tortured and burned alive. After the execution, a wolf's body was set up in public, and its head replaced with stubs as a warning to anyone else contemplating lycanthropy. So that is a strong deterrent, Flack. What do you, would that keep you from making a deal with the devil, or would you put on the devil's belt?
You know, I think we've been doing this show. You and I have been doing this show for a few years now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And if
yeah.
there's, you know, if there's one thing that I've kind of taken away, is that deals with the devil never really end that well.
No.
It's not. It's not like the movies where
No.
you go, well, no one ever says, "I'm glad I did that."
That worked out
It
great. The
doesn't
devil's
end
a swell guy.
right around the time I think it even said in his article that they ripped off his arms and legs.
Yeah.
And you know, so boy, you know, and here's what I would. I mean, I guess if you make a deal with the devil, the belt only works for you. Like the belt
Presumably.
is.
Yeah.
The belt isn't magic. It's a combination of you and the belt, because anybody, like if I was on trial, I mean, like, but you know, here's the thing too. It's like, it could be too late. Like they've already ripped his flesh off,
Yeah.
right? Pulled off his arms and legs.
Yeah.
They burned him.
Yeah.
They cut his head off.
Yeah.
They poked his eyes out. They
Yeah.
put his head on a wolf's body.
Yeah.
And then someone tries on the belt and goes, "Hey, it doesn't do anything." Oh,
Yeah.
Well,
You know, the funny thing is, I've got an
evidence up
addendum
front.
to the story, because I believe I have the devil's belt, Flack. I'm honest, because this stupid thing keeps getting tighter, and I believe it's trying to render my torso from my legs. I don't know what this thing's going on, but you know how it is, the devil's belt. That's what I get for ordering from a belt from a sketchy web page. I didn't realize they were going to put it on me there.
I thought for sure you were going to say you won it in the ring.
Yeah, not quite. Listen, I can't get in the ring. So, another one of the people mentioned here in this article is Jacques Rule. This is from 1598. Man, the late 1500s, it was Wolfomania. It was real wild. This was the Werewolf of Angers, or the Werewolf of Cod, depending on what you add. There's two towns so he's the werewolf of both towns. That tells you he got around. So in 1598, the mutilated body of a teenage boy was discovered in the woods, and wolves were spotted nearby. Now get this. So that could happen. Wolves mutilated a boy, right? No. Not far away. Jacques Rule was found wounded and half naked. After he was then arrested, of course, because if you're wounded and half naked and you're near a dead kid, you must have done it. After he was arrested, he did confess to the murder. He revealed that he was given a salve, you know, like a homemade medical salve, all right, that transferred him into a wolf. You know what I'm saying? It can happen.
Sure.
Listen, if you've ever worked out in the gym and taken any sort of that workout powder, you never know what's in that stuff.
It'll wolf you right up.
Yeah, the boy wasn't even his first kill, he confessed. He'd murdered and eaten others, too. So there's no record of him being tortured to make this confession. He just confessed. He didn't say he made a deal with the devil, though. He just said he was a, wolf guy. Guess what?
Yeah.
Murder, lycanthropy, and cannibalism. But after an appeal, he was judged mentally ill and instead committed to an asylum and religious education for 2 years. I like that. That's nice. So that had a happy ending after he potentially violently murdered that boy.
Now, where did this take place again? Was this in
the Big F, France?
Okay, I thought it was Jacques. So I did
that
some
gave
research.
it away.
I did some research on the interrogation.
Yeah.
And it went like this: they got him into the room, and then they got the two. They got to play good cop, bad cop, right?
Yeah.
And the guy comes in and goes, "I see you have a belt." And they go, "Oh, it's just like the other guy's."
That's
belt."
all it
I
took?
don't know.
It's
Like,
like
if you got a belt, you're in trouble.
it's like Friday the 13th, the series. It's a cursed object that just handed down.
It just keeps going. It keeps going. It is well. So there's a lot. There's some things to unpack here. I mean, here's the thing, man. I don't know how quick I think on my feet, right? But they find you, like, you're in the forest, right?
Yeah.
And you're disheveled at best. Next to you is a halfway eaten person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the French authorities from the 1500s, who, by the way, I don't know if you listened to the last story, but when they found people, they were tearing their arms and legs off, and they were putting their heads on wolves, right?
Yeah. Deterrent.
So you got to think on your feet pretty fast. You got to come up with a story, right? And then they're like, "Are you, did you kill that kid? Did you eat him too?" And he goes, "I am a wolf." I mean, you got to come up with something. You got, they don't. Yeah,
So
I don't know.
He was not quick on his feet. That was his answer.
No,
I'm a wolf. He could have said they also got me, or I don't know. Those weren't
right.
Those weren't in the wheelhouse.
Right. Yeah.
So
there's a guy with a belt.
Let's go back to France. This next one. This is 1573. Gilles Garnet. So this is in the town of Dole, France.
Love this one, by the way.
Yeah. Several children went missing and were later. Man, what was going on in France, by the way? Several children went missing and were later found torn apart in the woods. All right. That autumn, townspeople were charged with finding the werewolf responsible. So right away, there was no question that a werewolf had done it. We've decided. In November, a hunting group witnessed a wild animal attack on a child, which one would wonder if a group of hunters were around and there was one lone child in the woods. That seems like that's bad oversight. Anyway, the hunting group witnessed a wild animal attack on a child, and someone recognized that the beast had features that resembled the local hermit, Gilles Garnet. Of course, let's think about all the wolves you've seen in the wild. I went to the French Creek Animal Preserve. They got actual, factual, real life, big time wolves, the big dogs. Okay. Often when I look at them, I can pick out human features that resemble my friends.
Yeah.
And you can't.
I bet he's got 4 legs.
Yeah. I bet it's him. A week later, when another child disappeared, Garnier and his wife were arrested. So it's good to know the hermit had a wife. 50 witnesses testified against Garnier, and he was put on the rack. He confessed to being a lycanthrope and to hunting, killing, and eating children who ventured into the woods, saying that he shared most of them even with his wife, so he threw her into the bus. In January of 1573, Garnier
he confessed while he was on the rack?
Yeah, he was
like
they were giving him the rack.
He was getting the business. Okay.
The full business. Right. In January of 1573, Garnier was burned at stake. Modern speculation is Garnier was guilty of murder and cannibalism, but the werewolf confession is attributed to either mental illness or torture. So one would wonder how they came to those conclusions. But I think you start off on the wrong foot when you just assume that the children were ripped apart by werewolves. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I would confess to anything if you turn my Wi-Fi off for 3 minutes. Like, I would tell you that I have randomly eaten children.
So
right?
you're telling me you wouldn't fare well on the rack?
I'm saying, and I have a low threshold for pain,
sure.
And I mean, I would be like, when they showed me the rack, I would be like, I am a werewolf. Don't put me on that thing. So, yeah, I think you could get most people. Is there? I don't know what your technical setup is. Is there any way you can get this picture over there? And if you can't, that's okay. The picture with this article, but the reason that I love this is because I remember, so I had all those Time Life books when we were kids, and I had the one that I love is a Reader's Digest book that I attribute a lot of my love of all this stuff to. It was called Strange Stories, Amazing Facts. I still have it over here on my bookshelf, and it had this picture in it, and there was an article about werewolves and stuff in it. It talked a little bit about this case, but even as a young child, it struck me that this is a wood carving.
Yeah.
And someone had to spend a lot of time carving those kids being eaten down there.
Yeah. If you're listening to us on the radio, what you've got here is a werewolf. It's a wolf in clothes. He's chowing down a child amidst a farm frontal of a bunch of other children, and his wife's in the back menacing yet another child as the one child flees in terror. It's a lot of dead children being menaced by these werewolves. The artist. I'd get double pay for that one, Flag. That's a hardcore picture right there.
I will say, yeah. And by the way, I mean, like, I recently built some shelves out of 2x4s. It took me 4 hours. So
Yeah.
I don't know how long it takes to carve a wood carving of a guy eating babies, but
Yeah.
I mean, you would think it would take a long time. But I will say this in the people's defense: in this picture, his features do resemble the hermit guy. I
Yeah.
would say he looks a lot like him. So
Well,
maybe
I mean, to be
if this is
fair,
what the
I think they were trying to put this guy under the jail when they wood carved this. You know.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I mean,
could have been after the trial. Yeah.
you know what sucks? You're a hermit, all right? No one wakes up in the morning and thinks to themselves, "My God, I want to live the life of a hermit. Just be out in the woods, a loser, And then you're lucky enough to have some loser hermit wife, and you're living in a barn." And then, so one of two things happen. Either one thing, you're just sitting there, all of a sudden they come and hook you to the rack. You're like, what the hell's happening?
Right.
Or somehow you're stricken with lycanthropy, so you become a werewolf, and you and your wife are cursed to go eat kids, which can't be an easy thing to pull off as a hermit. Either way, that's a bad way to go, Bad times if you're a werewolf hermit or just a hermit in general. That's a rough go.
We talked about this last week with the ghost, the Irish immigrant that was on the had come into town, and then there was the plague showed up, and then they were like, oh, it's got to be the person who doesn't come into town. I think this is a real bad time, like this era, bad time for introverts. Yeah. Like, you got to get out of your house. You got to go mingle a little bit. You don't want to be the weirdo hermit because, there's a rack waiting for you.
You better show up at church too, or you're in deep trouble. So, this next bit, this is an interesting tale. This is Pierre Beaujour and Michel Verdun, 1521. These are the werewolves, plural, of polygamy. These three men accused of lycanthropy in France, 1521. A traveler who had been attacked by a wolf tracked the injured animal to Michel Verdun's house, where Verdun was found dripping with blood, of course. He was arrested and, under torture, confessed to being a werewolf and implicated Pierre Bourgeot and Philibert Montot. Bourgeot, in turn, confessed and told a tale of making a deal with three mysterious men dressed in black to protect his sheep. Of course. Bourgeot said he was only found out later that the deal entailed renouncing God and his baptism. Bourgeot said in the years that followed that Michel Verdun gave him an ointment that turned him into a wolf, and together they killed at least 2 children. It's not clear whether Philibert Montot ever confessed, but he was executed along with the other 2 accused werewolves. That's bad times right there. That's the old he said, she said routine, where you get picked up for being a werewolf, and they're like, listen, who are your werewolf buddies? And then you have to, sell out your friends.
Right.
Like Philbert, he got hosed big time.
Hey, listen, I'm telling you what, they put me on the rack. Nobody in the chat room tonight is safe. I'm selling every person in here. I'm giving your names. I'm like, yep, all these people in here were also co-conspirators. One thing I'm getting from all these stories is that werewolves are not necessarily good at cleaning up after themselves at crime scenes.
Yeah.
Like, they always seem to have to leave a trail. We followed the dead bodies to their front door. Well, werewolves they're going to need to step it up a little bit if they're going to survive France in the 1500s.
One thing I wonder is, why the hell would you let your kids wander around the woods? They're getting slaughtered left and right. For God's sakes, build a fence. You know what I'm saying?
Werewolves everywhere.
You can have a big yard. What are those kids doing out there? Keep them out of the woods, ladies and gentlemen. No good. So that's double werewolf action right there, or triple technically. This next one, the Wolf of Ansbach. Now we've moved into the 1600s, 1685 Flack. This is a notorious werewolf case involving an actual wolf, which they specify. In 1685, the Principality of Ansbach, now a district of Germany, was part of the Holy Roman Empire. It was plagued by a wolf that preyed on livestock and eventually moved on to eating people, as they will. The citizens thought they were being terrorized by a werewolf and believed they knew exactly who it was. Their unnamed hatred and dead mayor. So they blamed the murders on the mayor, who had returned to the world as the in the living guise of the wolf. A hunting party. That's bad. You must have been a real bad mayor, by the way, just before I continue. A hunting party with dogs drove the wolf into a well. That's a trick. That's like sinking that's like a bank shot on the 8-ball.
Yeah.
The dogs drove the wolf into a well where it was killed. No kidding. Still believing it was a werewolf, the citizens chopped off the wolf's nose. Okay, this gets weird. Believing that there was a werewolf, the citizens chopped off the wolf's nose, dressed it in man's clothing, added a human mask, and hung the body from a pole. The carcass was later installed in a local museum. So, at least I didn't waste it. That is right there, Flack.
You know, if you fast forward, there's a scene where there's a taxidermist, and he's looking at this, and he looks up at the camera and he goes, "Where's the nose?"
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm like someone, you know, there's can't even, like, there's a crowd of people. They're like, "We must get the wolf." Yeah, the whole crowd. Yeah, you know, we gotta, you know, he killed he was the mayor. We gotta get him. Yeah. And then one guy goes, "We gotta chop off his nose," and everybody goes, "Oh, what?"
Yeah, but do you understand why they chopped off the nose? So they could put the human mask on it. That's why. They wanted it to look like the mayor. Think about this for a minute. This mayor, what did this guy do? Think about this. He was dead already. They assumed he was the killer wolf. They put a mayor mask on the wolf and then hung the wolf. That is the.
Hey, this is the first one you've shared where I felt sorry for the wolf too. Yeah. You know, not just the mayor.
It did eat children, Flack, to be fair. And sheep.
But again, what did you say? Don't put them out in the woods.
Man, that one gets me. The fact that's a long way to go to have a werewolf. It's like, listen, we're pretty sure this is a wolf. Let's chop its nose off and put a human mask on it. That's good stuff.
There's your Halloween costume. It's you as a wolf, as a mayor.
Yeah.
It's kind of a double layer thing, but we can pull it off.
That's good stuff. So they've got one last one here. This is Hans the werewolf, 1651. Dozens of people were accused of supernatural crimes in a series of witch and werewolf trials that took place in 17th century Estonia. One 18-year-old citizen named Hans was convicted of both lycanthropy and witchcraft, the rare daily double, though he denied making a pact with the devil. Hans admitted that he had been a werewolf for 2 years and had become one of the beasts after he was bitten by a man dressed in black, who was, of course, a werewolf himself. The court decided Hans must have made a satanic deal, which made him guilty of witchcraft as well, and they put him to death. And that was it to him. So this guy, you're born under a bad sign when you're a witch and a werewolf. That's the double.
That's two full. You know, in this economy, you got to have two jobs. And so
that's not what he was doing. You
gotta.
You need children to put in the cauldron. So you might as well be a wolf, rustle them up, stick them in the cauldron. If you can take anything from this segment, ladies and gentlemen, please, I beseech you, do not let your children run free in the woods. That's the one thing I can tell you. And please do not buy garments from the devil. Is another aspect of this. I want to pound that home.
No deals with the devil. Don't do that. Yeah, it's just, and stop if you're gonna do one thing, stop eating children.
Yeah, and if you're gonna make a deal with them, at least make sure it's a really nice car. That's how I would do it. We'll be back because Jack Flack is going to take us by the hand, and we're going to trepidatiously walk down the path of modern werewolves. That's right. We're laughing now, but it's not so funny when a werewolf comes knocking on your door and he's got a thirst for your blood, brother. We'll be back in 2 minutes and 2 seconds. This is Conversations from the Darkside.
You are experiencing Conversations from the Darkside.
this Halloween, be the most popular house on the block. While the other neighbors are passing out boring old chocolate bars, dull candies, and bland treats, why don't you give the kids what they really want? The exciting and smooth taste of Newport menthol cigarettes, the most refreshing smoke of all. Newport menthol cigarettes, alive with pleasure.
You are experiencing Conversations from the Darkside.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen, on Conversations from the Darkside. You know, let's face facts. We were amused. We had a good laugh at Zeus and these various werewolf accusees who tore children to bits, allegedly, and were put on the rack. It's all fun and games until a werewolf comes rolling up to your house today. It can happen today, and Flack is going to tell us all about modern werewolves. Take it away, Flacker.
Well, you know, I was looking for some newer werewolf stories, and I was thinking newer was going to be like, 1800s or early 1900s. Yeah. But I found several relatively modern werewolf stories, and one, this is and I think we have some people listening live tonight from different, all different states and stuff. But so we've got some that people may actually know about. But this first one is the Beast of Bray Road, and this is a legend of werewolf sightings that is a whole cluster for many years that appeared around Elkhorn, Wisconsin. And so these sightings date back to the 1930s and go all the way up there as recently as the 1990s. So people have reported many times over the years seeing, and this is a quote, quote, a large, muscular, and hairy creature with glowing eyes and a wolf's head, and also the ability to walk or run on two legs. So, I mean, what else could it be, right?
Yeah.
So this is one of the most interesting things that I found out about this is that there was a local journalist. Her name was Linda Godfrey. And, she had grown up and she'd heard about this legend and stuff. And so she basically wanted to debunk it. And she started working on a book. And she actually didn't debunk it. She found so many stories and sightings and different things that were all unsolved. So she did end up writing her book. The book is called The Beast of Bray Road, Tailing Wisconsin's Werewolf. Now, this is a thing that I liked about it because she is, she's a legitimate journalist, right? And so she went around and she talked to people and asked them, but not everyone believes that it is a werewolf. Some people think it might be Bigfoot. And then there's a small contingent of people that think it could just be some different unknown cryptid. Right. So everybody does believe that it's something. Right. But and werewolf has been the long-standing theory. But there's definitely this contingency that thinks maybe it could be Bigfoot or something else. Now, this is one of the interesting things that she dug up in her book was that, as she kept interviewing people, she was eventually led to some of the Native American tribes, different people that have lived there for hundreds and hundreds of years, and they have very similar stories that go back hundreds of years about shapeshifters that live in that same area, and they were described in the exact same way. So what do you think about something like that, where not only do you have these modern sightings and things like that, but you've got stories that go back hundreds of years that seem to be the same through multiple generations?
Well, first of all, I like the idea that a werewolf, you've got like a neighborhood werewolf. I do like that.
Right,
I like it because that's not my neighborhood. But it's, as someone, I can relate to this article, as someone who lives near a town that has sort of a neighborhood monster, a couple of them. You know, now granted, they're long gone, but still, they take this stuff seriously, and I would assume they take this just as seriously out on that road, Bray Road there. You know, if you've got years and years of accounts of something, you know, normally, listen, anyone can make up a load of crap and be like, hey, everybody, I saw like a werewolf, waka waka, you know, give me some attention. But if there are hundreds of years of people talking about it, it does give one pause because something is causing the chatter. You know, so the thing that the werewolf on Bray Road, I mean, has it done anything? I mean, has it just been sighted, or has it actually? You think a werewolf might kill some children, for example?
You know what? And a lot of the reports, he was seen eating roadkill. That was one of the things that a lot of people have reported seeing, which I would say rules out the hermit guy.
Yeah, yeah, because those guys like it fresh. You know, we could use a roadkill werewolf around these parts because there's so much of it around here. But you know, I will say, I don't know. One would wonder how far Bray Road goes. You know, how long a stretch of road it is. But you know, if it's an odd thing. It's an odd modern werewolf thing. When was the last time this guy was seen?
Around the 90s, I think, is the most recent sightings. And I will say that I do remember reading that there are reports, like some people had said that at one point it had attacked a car. And so there were claw marks and scratch marks in a car. So there has been, you know, physical things. It's not just sightings like it has appeared. But they did say that there's never been a case of any attacks on human beings. So, but yeah, there has been property damage and stuff like that.
One would wonder what the property values are like there in town. Would you live on a road where there was a suspected werewolf running around?
Ooh.
I mean, if you got a really good deal.
Here's the thing. I wouldn't go in the woods.
Right.
Let's say, you know, like I would stay in, if I got a really good deal, is stay in well-lit areas. Maybe carry some silver bullets with you or something like that. I don't know. It's a tough call because you got to think whatever you're going to save on getting a good deal, now you're going to have to pay for werewolf insurance. So there's probably going to be the trade-off going back to that. So
I will say, in all seriousness, if I had a suspicion that a werewolf lived in my vicinity, me and the family would be gone. And I mean, now listen, I'm going to need some hard facts. I'm not just going to hear some kind of ancient Native American lore or some drunken geek that is driving down that road, Bray Road. But I mean, if I saw like paw prints and cattle was mutilated, you know, stuff like that, I mean, I'd go, because why take it? You know, my motto is why take a chance, and this is it's a perfect example of that. It's like, listen, not to mention, this is what was Wisconsin. I mean, it's too cold up there anyway. You know, I guarantee you're not going to see a werewolf south of the Mason-Dixon line. Too cold, too warm down there for werewolf. It's got too much burr. So I would head. That's why I'm down here where I am. Why take a chance with a werewolf being around? I'm out on that. But it's interesting. It's interesting that something that most recently is given any credence by anybody.
Well, I do like that your deterrent is not that the werewolf might get you, but that it's too cold.
Yeah.
So you know,
that's my number one priority, Flack.
That's a man's choice right there. So you know, it seems like that is a modern sighting, right, in the 1990s. But I'm going to tell you this: there is a thing that is blowing up that has happened this month. I mean,
really?
we're talking October 2025. And so this all started now. I mean, when I start right off the bat, you're going to roll your eyes, but it started on Reddit, right? But a guy he came on Reddit, and he basically said that he was jogging and he went past this park that is in Texas, right? And so, and this is all happening near San Antonio, Texas. So this is south, pretty South Texas. And anyway, he was jogging, and he said, well, he actually called in and reported a 10-foot tall wolf-like creature. He saw this in Harderburg Park in Texas, right? So, you know, people can mistake, they can see something, right? Like you go by and you think, oh, it was a bear or something, right? But now here's where it gets weird, is that the police said that someone else had called in a different report and from a different park, and it was in San Pedro Park. So this is a different park in Texas, but they had called in and reported the same thing. They said it was a 10-foot tall thing that looked like it had a wolf's head with a long tail, but it was standing on 2 legs. So now you've got 2 different reports that have been called in, right, at different parks, that are both reporting the same thing. So, but literally this is happening right now. Now, like I said, there's a little bit of skepticism going around because it seems to have first come up on Reddit, and so people are like, well, because it's easy to go on the internet, right, and just make up a story. But
oh yeah,
here's the other thing that is interesting about this now. And I don't know if the people, maybe if you live in this area, you already knew this or something, but this is not far from the Converse werewolf sighting. And this is a story from the 1800s. Now, I will tell you, full disclosure, this is more of a legend than like an actual story that appeared in a newspaper, right? Like
the Converse werewolf, okay?
Converse, like shoes, like Converse shoes. So this is a famous legend, and this is from that area in southern Texas. And as the legend goes, this man had taken his son on a hunting trip, and the son was scared. He said he didn't want to be in the woods and all this stuff. And so the dad, he did that tough love thing, and he was like, no, you're going to go out the woods by yourself, you know, and I'm going to come back.
Wow, that is tough love.
Right. And see how you are, right? And so anyway, the kid didn't return. And so, and by the way, I just want to throw this out as we're talking about like signs of good parenting versus bad parenting. The place where they were hunting was called Skull Crossing.
Wow.
So maybe,
yikes.
Maybe don't send your kid out there to spend the night by himself. But so anyway, as the legend goes, the kid did not return, and so they formed a search party to go find the kid. And they found some of the kid, but also where they found some of the kid, they also found, and this was multiple people reported this search party, a 7-foot tall hairy beast. Actually, I think they said it was 8 to 9 foot tall. That was half man and half wolf. So the kid obviously did not live. But everybody in this search party, like I said, they said when they got out there, they saw this wolf. Now, again, the problem with this story is that it's so old and that the details got lost. So we don't have the guy's first and last name. We don't have the name of the kid. We don't have the people that were in the search party.
And what year did you say this was?
This is in the 1800s.
I see.
Right. So. Yeah, so it's it's kind of now at this point it's more legend than it is like an actual news story type thing like that. But these sightings that are being reported right now are pretty close to that area, and so some people and the people that made the sightings, I don't know if they knew that legend, if they're familiar with it or not. But some people are putting 2 and 2 together. And they were saying, hey, this was an area where, this legend of this old werewolf story was. And now people are seeing something that looks like a werewolf again. So another city not to move to. Like if you're talking to your real estate agent and they're like, listen, we've got this great place and it's right near a little place called Skull Crossing. You go, I'm out. I'm not living in Skull Crossing.
Werewolves never hang out at like Flower Lane. You ever notice?
No.
It's always Skull Crossing or Death Zone.
See, the same people doing this should be the people. There's the same people that should be naming those meteors.
Should anything be named Skull Crossing? Is there any reason to name it? They can't come up with something better than that. Come on, man.
It's bad news.
The funny thing. So here we are, as we are recording this. It's 2025. Werewolves don't get as much play as they once did. You don't hear much about werewolves. You don't see kids dressed up like werewolves as much as you used to. The movies about werewolves aren't coming out as like they were. And I think part of the part of that is just Halloween is celebrated differently than it was. Because werewolves are a hot commodity back when I was a kid. They were awesome. Big hairy freaks. That's why Chewbacca was so popular. It's like a wolf man. I think maybe we're going to be. I think we're moving past them as a society. I don't know if they have the same. I don't know if they've still got the same impact they once did. Because you can imagine, you've taken Big Rob's van out in the woods, and I've been camping. I was in the Boy Scouts. I went out in the middle of the woods. And one thing you learn when you're in the woods, it's dark, you got a campfire. When you hear animals or a howl in the back, you understand what caused man of that era to tremble and fear. Because, like, when we hear them now, not that worried, but it's still scary. But you're talking about an era where people could be drug off by wolves. Kids were actually killed by wolves, and adults. Wolves rolled in packs, and they were a terror. And people had no light. It's a pitch black night, and you hear a wolf coming at you. There's some of the woods. You've got it's a fear that has been handed down from our ancestors, and so you can understand how wolves could be frightening. Have we moved past that, Flack?
Well, it's one of the things like we talked about was. I'm gonna do a callback where we talked about the increase in UFO sightings recently because these rocks are hurtling towards Earth, and you have to wonder: are there more UFO sightings right now because there's more UFO activity because these rocks like this all this interstellar activity is happening, or is it because more people are looking up into the sky, right? And so, werewolves, like are there really werewolves running around the woods? I don't know. It'd be a hard sell, right? But think about this: if you were gonna, what did Central Park look like in the 1800s versus what does it look like now, right? So. You're also not going to see a bear in Central Park. You're not going to see all these things in Central Park that may have been there at one time, right? So where are we getting reports from now? Where are we getting werewolf stories from? You mentioned, like, there was the one from India. We're getting the ones from Brazil. We're getting the ones, so these areas, and think about going out in the woods in Brazil, it's probably a lot darker than the woods, which are outside my town, which are all lit up by, stadium lights and everything else and light pollution, so maybe, I don't know, are werewolves migratory? I don't know. I should look that up. I don't know, but you know what I mean? Like maybe these things, maybe they're moving to places where they're not, where they're a little bit further out, away from all this technology, from all the lights, from all the city noise,
Yeah, you never know. I mean, I think the primeval fear of the wolf, I'm not sure you could ever bake that out of a person. And I think it's funny because now here we are. We got cell phones, we got flashlights, we got all sorts of incredible inventions. But if you put a man in the woods and there's no cell service and you're stuck out there and you hear that wolf howl, you're going to understand what true fear is like, because your ancient ancestors passed down something to you that you can't get rid of, and that's a fear of that noise, the wolf, his muzzle coming up on you, ripping at your throat. It's a scary thought, and the fact that a man could become such a predator, it holds a different sort of fear than a lot of these creatures have. So, we've talked about historical werewolves. We've talked about modern werewolves. Now we're going to move into a segment after the break where we talk about werewolves in pop culture, specifically film and television, their impact, what it was, what it is, what it will be. We're going to tackle that subject when we come back. Stick around. This is Conversations from the Darkside.
You are experiencing Conversations from the Darkside.
The world's largest teapot was dedicated across the border in West Virginia today, but before that could happen, a lot of other things had to occur, including a little help from our Wayne Van Dyne.
And this is the world's largest teapot, a town landmark that almost wasn't. Local citizens wanted to restore it, but it was nearly falling apart from age.
Well, I went and took a look at it. And with the rotted floor, the rotted walls, the windows out, the door off, I told them to burn it. I didn't think anybody could fix it.
Someone did. It was restored by volunteers with money donated locally. But then a dispute with state highway officials over its location almost left them with no place to put it. Governor Caperton's office finally cut the red tape, setting the stage for today's celebration, which even rain failed to stop. So it's official now, the world's largest teapot has been dedicated in Chester, West Virginia. Police Chief Terry Potts, Mayor Sally Riley, I dare you.
I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my hand.
Wayne Van Dyne, KDKA Eyewitness News, Chester.
Deep within this ancient museum of North America, amidst the whispering trees and the persistent call of the wild, there exists a legend. This is the realm of Bigfoot. In the end, Science Museum Oklahoma is a place where curiosity reigns, where the boundaries of the known are constantly pushed. It becomes a haven for one of the greatest mysteries of all. Bigfoot, the keeper of secrets, wandering ever so quietly through the corridors of human achievement. This is Camp Cryptid.
You are experiencing Conversations from the Darkside.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Excuse me. That's my Wolfman Jack right there.
That's pretty good.
Welcome back to Conversations from Darkside as we take on werewolves. Now, we've talked about the historical impact of werewolves. We talked about, by the way, keep your kids in, ladies and gentlemen. We talked about modern werewolves. They're around. Now we're going to talk about werewolves in pop culture, specifically cinema and TV, because it's funny, Flack, that werewolves have been a topic of film quite a while, and have been, at different times, have been very popular in the cinema and on TV.
Yeah, they go, like I said, they go all the way back to the 40s, and I think if you want to talk about probably the most influential werewolf film of all time, it's got to be Teen Wolf 2, starring Jason Bateman.
God, no.
We'll touch that one later. No, it's the Wolfman, the Universal Pictures. I'll say this. When I was a kid, and I think we've all gone through this, right? We all had things that made impacts on us as kids that when we become older, if you have children, you want your kids to experience those same things, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to share those things with you. Like I told my kids, at one point I was like, you will like Star Wars. Like it's not really an option. Like, it's just, you have to do it. Right. And so when I was a kid, one time I had, my dad sat me down and was like, I want you to watch these movies, and it was all the original Universal Pictures films. It was Dracula. It was, The Invisible Man. It was all those things. But one was the Wolfman, and I remember telling my dad, I was like, the Wolfman's just not that scary. I said, it's not, it just doesn't seem that scary to me. And my dad said, you know what? If you were 12 years old sitting on the front row of a movie theater and he was 20 foot tall, it would have scared the crap out of you. I always thought about that, for these old movies. Like we're so used, like people watch movies on their phone now, and it's a real shame because those old Universal Pictures, man, if you go back and man, you sit down and you watch Frankenstein, you watch the Wolfman, and you really, turn the lights out and you sit there like they are great films. Now, one of the things, if you've ever seen the movie poster of the Wolfman, this is the original, the 1941 one. You'll notice there's two names on the poster. I'm sure you know this, but Lon Chaney Jr., his name is up front and center because he played the Wolfman, when he was actually in the makeup and everything. But the other name that you'll see on there is Bela Lugosi, which a lot of people don't know or don't remember. But of course, Bela Lugosi is best known for being Dracula, but he was also, in the Universal stable of actors, right? And so they would bring him back, and Bela Lugosi really pushed. He wanted to be the Wolfman as well, and that's weird to think about. Of course, we did see, some of those people play multiple characters in different movies and different things like that. But it's odd that, like, imagine if Bela Lugosi was as well known for being the Wolfman as he was for being Dracula. That's kind of a strange thought, but. I'm sure you've seen this film. I don't know if you have memories of it or thoughts about it, but yeah, this is kind of where it all starts. And again, like we mentioned earlier in the show, this is really where a lot of the basis of the legends come from. This is where we have been borrowing the legends for 80 years, like the Silver Bullet, like all those different things. It all kind of comes back to this movie.
Yeah, it is funny. I can't imagine Bela playing the Wolfman. I mean, Bela was great as Dracula, and I think that was, any role he had after that, it was Dracula playing somebody. Effectively, poor Bela, he was typecast forever, but that's just the way it was. He was so good at that. And so and multiple people took on the role of Wolfman over the years, Lon Chaney, among others. I did see this, I went through and watched Universal movies years and years and years ago. I will say Wolfman was one I haven't seen for quite a while. The last one I watched, inexplicably, both had a party of people at his house, and we all watched The Creature from the Black Lagoon. I mean, it was the strangest thing.
Oh, I don't know. That's one of my favorites.
I don't know why. The scene where the creature is swimming with that girl underwater is the most. That's quite a scene. But the Universal movies, Dracula and Wolfman and Frankenstein, they have the feel that only a movie made in that generation could have. But inherently, it's a spooky feeling. These guys were masters of their craft. They knew how to lay out a film, and they did a great job with that one. The makeup on that, it's another one you think to yourself, oh, it's so old, they're never gonna get it right. But they did a great job on that, and it was it's a creepy film, and you could definitely see how the influence of that movie. I mean, all the Universal monster movies influenced that monster going forward. And the Wolfman was no different than any of the other ones. How does this? Where does this one rank? Is it in the upper parts of your Universal films, or is it where you put it?
I mean, it's hard. Like, I used to rank it third. I mean, I was like Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, right? But sometimes I'll put it second, just because as an adult, Dracula is really such a slow burn, and I recently went to the theater last weekend and I saw the new Tron movie, right? And about halfway through that movie, I needed to go to the bathroom and I could not find 30 seconds where the music wasn't blaring or something was happening, right? Like, there's no, like, movies now are just like bam, 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 bam. You know what I mean? Like, there's no time. There's no slow burn, right? There's no building up for that.
There's no story, is what you're trying to say.
Well,
I mean, listen, the Tron is a good example. I've not seen the new Tron. I'm not going to make this a side story, but I really enjoyed Tron Legacy. I loved it, actually. I liked it more than the first one. I mean, don't get me wrong, I liked the first one too, but for different reasons. But they just trashed everything they did in that one. And everything I've heard about the third one, it's just I heard it was an audio-visual feast, but I heard that it just wasn't that great of an actual film. And the one thing you got from those Universal movies, and even the worst ones, I don't know which one you would consider the at the low end of the bar on the old movies. I mean, Creature of the Black Lagoon, I wouldn't put it at the top.
No,
but
I'll tell you which one's the lowest.
It's a slow burn, and all those are a slow burn. But I mean, what you get, because it's just like Jaws. You don't just want to have Dracula out there dance around. He saved them for when the deal goes down. And then you're like, oh, and they come out and they take care of business. That's what makes them great. Nowadays, we're saying the soft spot loud, and we're saying it all the time. Where there is no subtle nuance. There's no low points to build to a crescendo of entertainment. And I think that's what the Universal movies did quite well.
Yeah, so think about this, and you think about all those Universal movies.
Yeah.
If Count Dracula gets you into his castle, you're probably toast, right? If
He'll
you
bite
get cornered, you get cornered by Frankenstein, his sheer power, like you're in trouble. He's gonna get you, right? Even the Wolfman. I mean, you stand no chance against a half man, half wolf.
No,
you're in trouble, right?
Yeah, you're bad.
But the Mummy, if you walk at a moderate pace, you can get away.
Yeah.
Just even not even like a power walker.
To be fair, Frankenstein's not a sprinter. I mean, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
He'll creep up on you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, even with those boots, he'll get you, But yeah, the Mummy, I always felt like I could get away from the Mummy. So I put him at the bottom.
The Mummy's the
even
most
the Creature from the
far-fetched
Black
one.
Lagoon.
Because if you think about it, the Mummy's in Egypt, and maybe he's at a museum. He's not going to be like on your road. Like a werewolf can wander in. Or Dracula, he's hungry, screwed around. He can fly. But like the werewolf, he's going to be, and most of the time he's in Egypt, maybe near the pyramids. You're probably okay.
Well, I guess and along those same lines, one of those monsters, you have to be in the Black Lagoon. So if you just avoid that on the map, the creature might not get you. So
we've had a chatter come in. I just want to mention this. We got a couple great. I want to mention a couple comments here from Steve Burns. My dad used to go to the movie theater in his neighborhood by himself as a kid. He saw the Creature from the Black Lagoon. He was about 8, and he said he ran all the way home. See that exactly. And then Seamus O'Blannon. And one of your a countryman, probably a distant ancestor, you Flack, it says Ireland was once known as Wolfland, given how widespread they were, or at least the English and later Scottish settlers found out, against their comfort until the early 17th century. A lot of wolves up there in Ireland, and I would wager probably quite a few wolfmen rolling around up there. But it's interesting to me that I love the fact that someone would run home from the theater. That's something we've lost over the years. I think once you saw dinosaurs walking around, stuff like that. I mean, I don't think people get that frightened about stuff like. I mean, sure they'll get frightened by serial killers or torture porn, but when it comes to like monsters like that, I think we've lost something there, and it's sort of sad, I guess. But thank God the films are still out there, to be viewed.
You had a lot of, especially like I said, that time era. Like this is a little known fact. I don't know if you know this, but a lot of werewolf labor was used to build the Titanic in Ireland. So,
I didn't know that. Did they have a pretty strong werewolf union over there? I don't know what.
It did,
How would you have to negotiate with that guy? Bring in some dog treats before you hit that table.
They'll work long hours if you throw them a bone. Okay, so the so I want to shift just a little bit, or just a minor shift, because the next movie that I put on this list is a comedy, and as adults. Obviously, we know it's a comedy, right? As a kid, there were parts of this movie that terrified me, and this is the old Abbott and Costello. Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
I was the same way. So, I thought this would be a big romping joke. It was pretty scary for a kid.
Well, first of all, it's not just Frankenstein, right? Like, I don't know why. I honestly don't know why Frankenstein got the title. I mean, because obviously the title's too long if it says Abbott and Costello meet every monster, right? But, this is, I can't think of an old like comedy like this with a more famous scene than when Costello is but he, remember when he's in the scene where he's like the guard and the coffin slowly opening and the candle is sliding and sliding and he's like trying to call for chat. He's like, but yeah, I mean, this movie has obviously it has Frankenstein. It has, if I remember right, they're all teaming up to get. Is it they're trying to get Dracula? It's been a long time since I've seen it, but they're like the other monsters are trying to help them eventually, But you got them all that are in here, so it's really kind of a fun playground for all these different monsters to all be in the same movie. But there's a lot of Wolfman stuff in this movie. I'm sure you probably saw this as a kid.
This is when I watched. A lot of people are gonna know this, but like back in the old days, it was It was Sunday church time. And so, like, we had, when we had cable, which I was in my teenage years, they would show, like, old stuff like Ma and Pa Kettle, stuff like this. But Abbott and Costello were a popular Sunday morning special. And so I would see this every once in a while. And I would say, I loved Abbott and Costello, don't get me wrong, but I didn't usually watch their films that much. And so, but this one popped on, and I watched it one time, and I was like you. I was like, man, this is pretty frightening for an Abbott and Costello film. It's because I will say no one has a better job of acting like a scared idiot than Costello. He's a complete maniac. But they had the creatures in here. It was like, and I will say I think this is the first foray to comedy with the Universal monsters. I don't know if this took any of the edge off of them when they did this, but it was certainly a popular film, that's for darn sure. And of course, anything with Abbott and Costello is going to be pretty funny. I don't know how many people still watch Abbott and Costello, but if you're going to watch one, this is probably the one I would watch.
Yeah, I don't think it took the edge off of them because in this movie they still act like the monsters. You know what I mean? It's not like they're, Dracula's not, doing shtick or something. I mean, he's still acting like Dracula from the original movie. Wolfman's still creeping around and stuff like that. So, but yeah, like I said, I saw this a bunch as a kid, and to be able to see all the monsters all in one movie, that was a good takeaway.
Oh yeah,
so,
I agree on that one.
I got a 1-2 combo here for you. The first one is probably maybe the first werewolf movie I ever saw. Which is not saying much for my parents limiting what I watched on television. But you know what? We grew up in the HBO days. You went home, you turned it on late at night, and if you turn it on enough time, you would eventually catch An American Werewolf in London. This movie came out in 1981. And it was directed by John Landis, who, of course, went on to become a famous director, but this movie is known for several different things, right? First of all, you got, if you haven't seen the movie, I'm sure most people have seen it now, but you got these two friends that are walking through the moors in London, and they're attacked by a wolf. Of course, they go to this tavern, and everybody's is real. They're Americans, right, on vacation or whatever, and they get attacked, and one of them is killed, and the other guy is bitten by a werewolf, but he survives, and so there's some great makeup. I'm going to talk about that in just a second, but where he's like seeing his dead buddy coming back, like in the movie theater, they have these weird conversations and stuff. But it's probably best known for, and I'm gonna ask you what you thought about the movie, and then we're gonna come back to it. But it's probably best known for the werewolf transformation scene that appears at the end of this movie. So, going back, is this one that you saw as a kid? Is this was this one of your go-to films?
This is one of my all-time favorite horror movies.
Really?
And I love this movie. I love it.
Okay.
It does a lot of things that I love. One of which shut that guy's butt. That's not one of them I love. If you're watching this home, But of course, I believe this is what got Landis his job with Michael Jackson, was this film, the transformation scene in this. It's funny. I'm a big Twilight Zone fan, and there's a great episode of the Twilight Zone called The Howling Man, and the Howling Man has this at the end of it. You haven't seen it. This guy walks out and he turns into the Satan. He becomes a guy that turns into the devil. And he walks in between these pillars, and as he goes from one pillar to the other, the transformation sort of occurs. So it was a real nice camera trick that they did, and it was very well done, and it's very well applauded in its day. Even today, people look back, they're like, "This is brilliant." But that was the extent of what you could do in the late 50s and early 60s, was the Howling Man, and the transformation in this movie was what you could really do when you had a crackerjack team of top-shelf special effects artists that knew how to put together a scene. The transformation in this is brutal. It's painful. It's disturbing, and occasionally it's played for laughs in a funny way, because the music in this movie is also well appointed. When they put stuff like Blue Moon and stuff in there, they like doo-wop stuff. It's always amused me that the soundtrack of this film. But this is a movie that really embodies the tale of a werewolf. These guys are backpacking across the moors. They go to the Slaughtered Lamb, which is a bar. By the way, Rick Mayall, the hilarious Rick Mayall, has a cameo in the Slaughtered Lamb. If you're a fan of the British comedy, Rick Mayall is an all-time great. But he goes to Slaughtered Lamb. The two guys, they tell him, they basically shunned them. Then they sort of feel remorse, but it's too late because they've already sent these guys out in the moors, and where the one guy gets slaughtered, a werewolf attack. It's a gruesome scene. And then the rest of the movie is sort of a psychological meltdown of the guy that became a wolf, between becoming a wolf and seeing his dead friend telling him, just like, kill yourself, stop screwing around. And every time he kills someone as a werewolf, they show up to tell him to kill himself too. And the thing is, they're not, when they show up as corpses, they're pretty chill, but they're like, hey, you need to kill yourself. Thanks for slaughtering us. He kills a married couple. They're there. It's almost played for laughs. It's sort of a horror comedy. I believe the chick that plays the nurse in this was the incredibly hot lady from Logan's Run, who does a turn as the nurse. And she's also super hot in this, and she's a good player in this. And ultimately, if you ever ask yourself, what happens if a werewolf gets loose in like London? Well, bad things is what happens. He's in the underground. I mean, every part of this movie, I think, is tremendous. This is one of my favorite horror films of all time. So, yeah, I think Landis did a top-shelf job.
Yeah, so one of the special effects in this and the transformation scene, like you alluded to, like if you go back to like the original, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? Like you've got a guy, well, it's Lon Chaney, right? But he's like Dr. Jekyll over here, and then he's like, oh, they change the lighting, and then he's like, hi, I'm Mr. Hyde, and there's cuts in the scenes. Like they had to figure out how to hide transformations in these movies, right? I mean, even like, doesn't Dracula, when he turns into a bat, isn't it like a little like a cartoon animation where he's like, like the drawn in stuff, like it's never good. It was never good, And so, these types of movies, like even all those old, like the old Hammer films, like stuff like that, when like if you're going to turn into a werewolf, it's going to happen off screen, or it's going to happen in the shadows, it's going to happen in the darkness. They got to hide it somehow, right? And this is like the first movie where they put that like front and center, like it is in his apartment. It is a well lit scene. You are watching it, and so so the man behind this, which you probably know, is Rick Baker. Now Rick Baker is probably one of the most famous special effect artists of our time. Rick Baker was doing some horror movie stuff. He was doing things, and then he got his big break on a little movie called Star Wars. When George Lucas reached out and said, I need a cantina full of aliens. Can you do that for me? And Rick Baker did that. And Rick Baker has been making masks and doing things like that ever since then, right? And his specialty for a long time was And by the way, I didn't research any of this. I just love Rick Baker.
I had no doubt. Yeah.
Oh, but Rick Baker specialized in not only like werewolf makeup, but he also did gorillas, and he also like anything like that. So Rick Baker did he did the the Bigfoot. Now I'm drawing a blank on the name, but
Harry and the Hendersons.
Harry and the Hendersons. Yeah. So he did that. He did when they did the 70s 76 remake of King Kong. He did that. He did the makeup and played the gorilla in The Incredible Shrieking Woman. So like that's his specialty, right? So he did all the werewolf makeup. He did all the effects in this movie. Now, as you mentioned, a couple of years later, so this is 81, I believe in 83, Michael Jackson comes out with this little album called Thriller. And Michael Jackson has seen this movie, and he calls, once you've released Thriller, you get everybody's phone number, right? And he basically calls John Landis and says, I want to make a video, and I want to turn into a werewolf like you did in your movie. He makes that call, right? And so John Landis is like, well, I didn't really do that. Rick Baker did that. And then, so if you've ever seen, if you were a kid on MTV, they used to show the making of Thriller. It was like that little half-hour special or whatever. But John Landis, who directed this movie, comes and he directs the video for Thriller, and they get Rick Baker. And Rick Baker comes and does all the werewolf makeup when Michael Jackson basically does not quite as extensive as in this, and thank goodness we don't see Michael Jackson's butt, but he does the same type of thing where his nose stretches out, his hand stretches, and he turns into werewolf as all. But that scene, like you said, it's sometimes in horror movies, the things that you don't see are terrifying, but in that, it's like you can't look away. Like it is so, the camera's on it, the lights are on it, and it's making you watch this, and it doesn't look like a fun thing.
I don't think it's ever been topped, if I'm honest. Even today, I've never seen anything that was as cool. Two things I want to talk about, because we're gonna have a 10-hour show the way we're going, Flack. The incredibly hot nurse that was also in Logan's Run, Jenny Agutter, and Dave brought up, our good buddy David Z, that this in fact did win an Academy Award for makeup, and justifiably. It was at the 54th Academy Awards. And it won the first ever Academy Award for Best Makeup. So this is the very first one. And bam, no movie ever deserved it more than American Werewolf in London. The sequel for this was a real letdown. It was a ill-advised maneuver, American Werewolf in Paris. And I don't recommend that. But if you haven't seen American Werewolf in London and you're in the mood for werewolf action, it's the top of the heap, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got next on your list, Flack?
Well, so I put down, I just listed a lot of different movies that I came up with. And of course, I had to list The Howling. I don't have too much to say about The Howling. It's the same year as American Werewolf in London. And I grew up watching American Werewolf in London over The Howling. So, I've seen The Howling, it was directed by Joe Dante, who was also another, went on to do lots of fun movies. Joe Dante did Gremlins. Joe Dante did Piranha. That was his first big movie. So,
I like Piranha. Maybe it's just me. Because Piranha, when I was a kid, piranhas were the deadliest thing on earth. Were piranhas. You never wanted to screw with them.
Piranha and Jaws both made me afraid to take a bath, which is ridiculous. But those movies were so scary as a kid, The Howling also stars Dee Wallace, and Dee Wallace is like that American mom. She's like everybody's mom, and then literally she was everybody's mom in multiple movies, because she was the mom. She was the mom in E.T.
Yeah.
Wasn't she in Close Encounters? She was the, Yeah, the mom where the little boy got abducted by aliens, you know. So I mean, she just has that face and that personality where you could just, you know, relate to her so much. So so I don't want to take anything away from The Howling. You know, I mean, it's a great movie and it's a great horror movie, and it's definitely a movie I think that's aged well. Like, I think you could still watch it, unlike a lot of 80s, you know, monster movies that haven't aged well. Like, I think it's still a good movie, you know. But I don't know. You got anything to add on The Howling? Because I got several I do want to.
I feel bad for The Howling, if I'm honest. You know, it's funny. 1981 was like the year of the werewolf for whatever reason, because that's also the year Wolfen was out. If you ever seen that, and it's funny. I liked Wolfen. I liked The Howling, but unfortunately they got stomped. Werewolf stomped by American Werewolf in London. They were never as good. I mean, but I did like, you know, they were both pretty good films. I thought they were okay. I will say the transformation scene in Howling it's okay. It's by conventional standards, but again, it just happened to be out right around the same time as American Werewolf in London, and like, it wasn't close. I mean, it was there was not a close call in that one. So yeah, both those just sort of like fell by the wayside, unfortunately. But I mean, I think they're both worth watching for sure.
So, you know, we kind of get into like my teen years and the movies that we start seeing, you know, when we're teenagers, like movies that are coming out, like when we're old enough to go see them. And one of the first ones that I remember actually going to like that was Silver Bullet. Now, a lot of people, I think, don't like this movie. I think personally, I think it's one of the better Stephen King movies.
Yeah,
of course, you know, it's based on a Stephen King story.
Oh, yeah.
I always loved it. You know, if you haven't seen Silver Bullet, it's a werewolf movie, and it's about this brother and sister, Marty and Jane, and they don't get along too well because Marty was in an accident and he's been paralyzed from the waist down, so he is in a wheelchair, and so Jane kind of has some resentment about this, and then their Uncle Red comes to visit, and one of the things Uncle Red does is he brings Marty a new wheelchair, which is this it's like a wheelchair / go-kart thing.
Yeah.
That has hand controls. Yeah, he could drive it, and it's called the Silver Bullet. Now, also going along, or you know, at the same time happening in this town is that people start disappearing. People start getting murdered, and they're trying to figure out who it is. But one night, Marty sees a werewolf, and of course, you know, it's that classic thing when you're 12 years old and you tell her, you're like, I saw a werewolf, and nobody believes you. Right. You know, so it kind of becomes that type of story, and you know, a lot of it is you know, it's a classic Stephen King because it's like a whodunit thing. Like, you got to figure out who is the werewolf in this town, and the kids set out to do that, and they eventually figure out, you know, who the werewolf is. And then they try to stop the werewolf, or they try to get the werewolf to stop himself, which he will not do, and then it's all gonna come boiling to a head. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but Uncle Red is Gary Busey.
Yes. Yes.
And you know, Gary Busey, like if you're like, my kids know who Gary Busey is from like Impractical Jokers, and they're like, is he that crazy insane guy? And I'm like, yeah, but he was. Like, he was Buddy Holly at one point, guys.
Yeah,
like,
he was good.
He was
doing
Uncle
that.
Red. Like, yeah, he was a legitimate actor, you know. So, and again, you got Corey Haim as Marty. So, you know, this is like young, innocent Corey Haim. Like, I mean, this is such a good movie. And I got to tell you a story real quick. So this came out, I think I was. Maybe I had just turned 14, but I was like 13, 14, and I had gone to spend the night with a friend of mine. He had moved to another school district. Now, like, you know, it's funny, like, when you're an adult, I think he moved like 10 miles away, but when you're a kid, that might as well be, he might as well move to China. I was never going to see him again, you know. And so we arranged like a sleepover. And he was an only child that lived with his single mom. And so that was a different world than I lived in. You know, I mean, his mom like worked 2 jobs. I mean, he spent a lot of time by himself and really could kind of watch anything he wanted, do pretty much anything he wanted. Like it was kind of no holds barred over there. So I went over to his house to go for this weekend, this sleepover. And we wanted to go see a movie, and his mom told us what movies, and it was the weekend that Silver Bullet had just come out. And so, and by the way, Silver Bullet R-rated.
Yeah.
So you got a 14-year-old, like I just turned 14, and my buddy had just turned 13. And so I'll never forget this. We went to the movies, and his mom dropped us off. Like, oh, she's at the car, you know, and we walk up the steps, and we're like, 2 tickets to Silver Bullet. And the guy, he says, it's R-rated. You can't see it without an adult. You know, we turned around and looked at his mom, and she got out of the car, and she walked up the steps, and she goes, 1 more ticket, and bought the ticket, and then ripped it in half and threw it in the ground.
That's the way they did it back in the day, brother.
It let us right in. And if you remember Silver Bullet, in the first 2 minutes, there's a lady that gets her head knocked off. And I just remember thinking, what are we doing in this theater? Like, this is not for children. But it was such a great moment of just sitting in that theater, like just being scared out of our wits, you know, and then having to walk, like go outside at night and stand outside a theater waiting for his mom to come and looking over your shoulder a little bit, like, you know. So was this one that you saw back in the day? Do you remember this?
This was an HBO special right here. I didn't have HBO, but my granny had. My grandmother, my dad's mom had HBO, and so that's the same place I saw Salem's Lot and a few other things. And so this was one of those. And then I've caught back up with it later on. But yeah, I think it's a real fun flick. Real good movie, a good werewolf action. Gary Busey, it's funny, he's less insane than usual. This is before he went completely bonkers, you know. I do always enjoy him, I will say. So yeah, I'm a fan. I like this one.
So yeah, it's a classic. Now in the mid to late '80s, we get a couple of kind of comedy, you know, more lighthearted werewolf related stuff, and the first one, of course, I gotta mention is the Monster Squad. Now I gotta tell you, I came to the Monster Squad pretty late on. Like I did not see this one as a kid. I probably didn't see it like until I was in my 20s. But it's a fun movie, and it's you know, these kids that they've set up their own little horror club dedicated to all the Universal monsters and being fans of this stuff. But then, of course, the monsters show up, and there's movies. There's certain like movies that just become a part of pop culture. You know, like I remember for years hearing people, like being at school and hearing people say, "You're killing me, Smalls," and I had no idea what they were talking about. You know, I hadn't seen The Sandlot yet, and then eventually you see that, but it's just these words, these phrases that just get adopted, you know. And so I literally remember, you know, like on Halloween doing things and hearing people telling me that the Wolfman has nards, and I was like, what is everybody talking about? Which of course is you know, a famous line from Monster Squad. So is this one that you saw back in the day?
No, I didn't. In fact, I've never seen this because
really?
To me, I mean, listen, I'm not having not ever seen it, so I can't comment. But it didn't do it for me for whatever reason. You know, watching that preview though, it looks like the guy that played the Wolfman is the same guy. Yeah, he is. Who was in Napoleon Dynamite, among other things. But he did a turn as a Wolfman. If you ever saw Fright Night 2, which is I love Fright Night 2 because it's much wackier than I love both actually. But he plays sort of a wolf vampire in that. So this is his only turn as a Wolfman. So with him in the movie, I'd be more inclined to see it. But this is one I never saw. I'm not so keen on kids and horror type flicks, and I'm not also that keen on. I mean, listen, that's not true because I love Young Frankenstein, some other funny horror movies, but like it's not something I draw to. So this is one I've heard about, much like The Sandlot, by the way. I never saw that either. It just didn't look like something I was. I don't like movies about kids all that often.
Yeah.
Every once in a blue moon. Maybe all those years of watching Little Rascals, it wore away my will to live on that. But no, I haven't seen this. But I know a lot of people that love it, so I'm not going to disparage the name.
I mean, I would say like to me, and if this is not a one-to-one comparison, but like it's almost like it's similar to Goonies, where you got a group of kids and then you got bad guys. You know, of course, in this one, the bad guys are literally monsters, the Universal monsters. But the problem for me is like going from Goonies to Monster Squad. It's only a 2-year gap. I think Goonies is 85 and Monster Squad's 87. So it's only 2 years. But for me, those 2 years is going from, being 14 to being 16.
Yeah.
Right. So, so when Monster Squad comes out, I'm watching Friday the 13th.
Right.
I'm watching Nightmare on Elm Street. I'd kind of graduated. So it to me at the time, it felt like a kid's movie. So it is a classic, I mean, it's a fun 80s, movie, but
I know people that love it, absolutely love it. So
yeah. And so listen, we can't get away from werewolf movies without talking about what could have been the greatest trilogy of all time. Unfortunately, they never made the third movie, so that makes it not a trilogy.
Why?
But, we're talking about Teen Wolf 2, and the proposed Teen Wolf 3. So Teen Wolf is the story of Scott Howard, who is a young man who's going through changes. And boy, is he going through changes because he turns into a werewolf. And I was always confused. His girlfriend's name, isn't her name Boo? And I was like, who? I didn't know anybody named Boo. And if you're watching the video stream right now, one of his teammates is
the jerk from Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Yeah.
Yes, is Mark Horton.
He also, if you'll recall, he's also the guy, Naked Gun, that screamed, "It's Enrico Palazzo!" for whatever reason.
I mean, he has a very short filmography. Yeah. They're all classics. He's also the original Leprechaun.
Yeah.
So he's in a lot of good movies. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So basically, it's a movie where you got Michael J. Fox, who was coming into his stardom at this point from Family Ties. Yeah. Right. And I believe I'd have to look this up, but I believe they had filmed this before. No, I think he filmed this after Back to the Future.
Yeah,
but
I'm pretty sure they did. Because I was baffled that he would be in this. I was like, what the hell?
Right. And then they both came out in the same year. They both came out in 85. But so the gist of this is that he turns into a werewolf. He finds out his father's also a werewolf eventually. But unlike other people who turn into werewolves, he decides not to hide it. He just decides he's gonna be because like when he plays basketball, he's really good. When he's a werewolf, he's really bad. When he's Scott Howard, when he's little Michael J. Fox. And so it kind of becomes that story of do you want to be who you are? He gets tired of being, everybody wants the wolf. Nobody wants him, right? I think this has one of the strangest prom dance scenes of all time. Yes. Everybody does does the werewolf. This movie is super popular. It was so popular. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was huge. It was huge at the time. And it was so popular that they literally made the exact same movie again and called it Teen Wolf 2. But of course, now at this point, Michael J. Fox is now a huge star. He does not want to come back and be in the same movie. And so they say, hey, here's what we'll do. We will get Jason Bateman, who's like I guess at the time he's kind of
he was a known guy. I knew who he was.
Yeah. What was it? Hogan's Family was a.
I don't remember what he did. But yeah, he was on Fox.
Yeah,
wasn't he also in Sliders? Wasn't that him? He was in that, wasn't he as well?
Was he? I think
know.
So. But they were like, well, so he's Scott Howard's cousin. He's Todd Howard. Yeah. And instead of being a basketball player, he'll be a boxer. And so, I mean, I want you to think of the ridiculousness of this. Of like, can you imagine you're in a high school boxing thing and they're like, listen, you got to box a werewolf.
I like the fact that despite the fact he's a werewolf, he's wearing headgear because you gotta be safe. You don't want the werewolf to have get any sort of concussion.
The old werewolf noggin, So the funny thing about this, I don't know, a lot of people probably don't know this story, but Alyssa Milano had been tagged to star in Teen Wolf 3. And so it was going to have a completely different story idea. Just kidding. It was going to be the exact same movie, except for she was going to play football. And so that was
really
the whole thing. Yes. And so, I mean, it was it was a done deal. And then something happened, and it was called Nobody Went to Go See Teen Wolf 2.
Yeah. Including me. I didn't ever saw the sequel. I was looking at the previews as we were watching the video here flip by. I see that John Aston's in it, which I like him for Gomez. By the way, he's still alive. I think he hit 100 or 102 or something. He's old.
My goodness, yeah.
I don't hate Jason Bateman either. But I saw the first Teen Wolf. I don't know why. Because the concept of this is repellent to me. It's so stupid. But I will say this about Teen Wolf. You see a lot of movies with this sort of premise, and you're like, well, how are they going to hide this the whole movie? This movie went in directions I did not see coming. The fact that he turned into a werewolf on the basketball court and then played the entire season as a werewolf, didn't see that coming. And the fact that could happen. Can you imagine?
Right.
Can you imagine being at the school board? If I was a parent, I'd be like, this doesn't seem fair. They got a wolf on their team.
You figure it's high. It's got to be high school because I'm going to say there's NCAA rules against having a werewolf on your team. I mean, one of the funniest things I think about this is when he's got his buddy Styles, and Styles is like the guy that's gonna kind of exploit him, right? Styles is he's gonna get him fame, like he's gonna sell Teen Wolf shirts, right? Like he's doing all these things. And there's the scene where he's driving around in his box truck, and Michael J. Fox is as the wolf on the roof doing backflips. Yeah. And then later he goes to see his dad. He's like, well, I saw you driving around the town, son.
Yeah. He was a party wolf. That's what was fun about him. Steve Burt just mentioned that he first saw Jason Bateman in a show on Fox called It's Your Move. That's exactly the first place I ever saw him. I used to like that show. It's Your Move. I totally forgotten about that show. But Teen Wolf, the whole Teen Wolf thing is an anomalous. I mean, the fact that Teen Wolf made all that money is bonkers to me. It's good to know that the Enrico Palazzo kid, Francis from Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and he pops up and stuff every once in a while. But I thought he was great in Teen Wolf 1. He was very funny. So, I mean, if you're going to watch the film, you can watch it just for that guy. Plus he got paid, added bonus. Like, it was a full film. Even in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, he's only vaguely in the movie. So, good for him. I'm glad to see that fat geek got some action. From one fat geek to another, I salute you, sir.
I'm just thinking now, a missed opportunity for Teen Wolf 3. Instead of Alyssa Milano, they could have went with Justine Bateman.
Oh God, no.
Got her from Family Ties. Oh, and that completes the Family Ties triangle because you got the Bateman and you got the Family Ties with Michael J. It just makes sense.
Oh man,
you got to get her in there, old Mallory. So,
I forgot about her existence until you just mentioned it. I hadn't thought about that for years.
Oh, she was the best.
Listen, Alyssa Milano was great. She was good looking too, so I'm a big fan back in the day. I used to watch Charm. Sure, what about it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I had a whole other list here of, werewolf movies. Ginger Snaps is one that I did see. Ginger Snaps, and it was Ginger Snaps is like it's like a coming of age movie with these two girls and their sisters, and they're kind of weird anyway, and they're like, oh, I'm kind of coming into my body, that sort of thing. But then she gets bitten by a werewolf, and so then she's like not only is she going, becoming a woman, but she's also becoming a werewolf. So there's those same kind
that
of
happened to me one time. Same exact deal there. It's tough. It's tough on you.
I know. I mean, some of these things I can't relate to because one time I ate some children out in the woods. So, there's
I thought
things
so.
happen,
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, I've never seen this, but just watching the pre-sport, it looks okay to me. It looks okay.
It was good. It's relatively, I think, like 2000 or something like that.
Yeah, I never heard of this one.
It's all right. So on these other ones that I have on the list, are there any of these that jump out to you? Are there ones that you liked or whatever? Please don't say Twilight.
I'm going to, because you got to mention Twilight. Twilight there was the summer of like who's out on the vampire guy or the werewolf guy. The werewolf guy was always, if you ever seen, I never watched Twilight without the rip tracks on there. That makes every movie tolerable. The only movie I've refused to watch on there was two of them. They were Hostel and Saw. I don't want to see those, even with rip tracks. But anyway, I'll watch anything else. So I watched the entire Twilight trilogy. I guess there's still 3 of them, right? And
I think so, yeah.
Jacob, what was the vampire's name? I don't remember what his name was. But Jacob was always shirtless, buff guy, romping around through the woods. He's a werewolf. These movies were, as a vampire fan, I thought they were dumb. As a werewolf fan, I was appalled. And as a film fan, I thought they were stupid. But they made a bucket of cash, and so my hat's off to them. They're so easy to make fun of that's why I'm happy they exist. So I will say that I'm happy they exist, but I wouldn't watch them unless you were in a interesting mood. I guess I put it that way. Or watch the rip tracks of them. I'm guessing you watched all these and you loved them and you cried at the end.
My kids were just at the right age where we skipped all these, so they weren't into it, so I didn't watch it. I don't want, my vampires with glitter. I don't want my werewolves. I don't want there to be a love triangle. I want blood and cannibalism and silver bullets. That's what I want.
You want dead kids scattered across the farm as far as the eye can see. That's what you like, right?
Happy Halloween.
This next one I've never heard of this next one, the Dog Soldiers. I've never heard of this one either.
Yeah, I didn't actually see this one. I saw this on there and I kind of watched the trailer, so I may go back and check this out. But some of these I don't know. There was kind of like this, maybe it was because of Twilight that there was kind of this resurgence of some of these films, But there was just so much. And of course now, like you get into 2000s, and you get this whole you and I have both been around for a long time. We've both watched horror for a long time. So you get those different shifts, right? So 70s, like if you watch those old Hammer movies, Hammer movie, like a lot of, they're great, but they're also like really long and slow. There's going to be a lot of scenes out in the woods where nothing happens for a long time, and then, you get to the 80s and it's just a different vibe, and so, all these 2000s, kind of late 90s, early 2000s vampire movies, like I said, I flipped through the trailers on some of these and they all kind of look the same. They're all like super dark and there's a lot of blood and not that I wouldn't, I don't have anything against films like that. It's just they all kind of run together for me.
This Bad Moon you've got listed, is this one you've seen?
Mm-mm,
yeah,
no.
I never heard of this one either. But again, I'm looking at the preview. It looks okay. Now I added a couple to the list here at the last minute that I didn't see. That I didn't see that you didn't have one here. And one of these, and I think I talked to this when we did horror movies on the show years ago. But I love this movie. It's a great werewolf movie, and it's a great film. It's called The Company of Wolves. It's a sort of less surrealistic fairy tale of a fever dream of a lady who lives in Germany in the dark woods. Maybe it's hard to tell exactly where she lives, what century it is, or really what's happening. Angela Lansbury is in this; she's probably the biggest star. But it's a super creepy film. It's like a weird fever dream of a movie. It's probably flew under the radar, but it's got a cult following for sure. If you haven't seen this one, I would give this one a shot. A Company of Wolves. You'll be happy if you watched it. This is my Lair of the White Worm for werewolves, basically. Which I know how much you love that one, Flack. Yeah. But I like this is actually even a better film than that. A couple more
They missed.
Go ahead.
Well, they missed the easy opportunity. Should have been Werewolf She Wrote.
Oh God. Well, I mean, I got nothing to say about that. A couple other
jokes get bad late in the show.
a couple other ones that I thought of, and I will say I haven't seen these forever. But do you remember Jack Nicholson had a movie called Wolf? Was a werewolf. Do you remember that one? Did you ever see that one?
Yeah. Hey, a long time ago. I did see that.
That one came out in 1994. I haven't seen this thing for a dog's age, but it was no pun intended.
Yeah.
But it's been a while. And then one other anomaly and this is one that you're not gonna remember unless you're old school. I'm sure that someone in the chat remembers, the same person that remembered that old show from Fox. There was a werewolf TV series. Does this ring a bell to you, Flack? The werewolf?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It seems like something I want to watch too.
This was a show that was on Fox. But it was simply called Werewolf. It ran from 87 to 88. This was in the early days of Fox, where they were just throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck. And this is actually a pretty graphic show for a network TV at the time, And it was as I recall, the adventures of a guy who was trying to find the head werewolf to take him out, because he'd been transformed. But it's been a little while since I watched it. It's funny, you can watch this whole thing on you can watch most of the series on YouTube if you want to check it out.
Oh, okay.
If that's your cup of tea. But it might be worth watching. I remember watching it back in the day. I think it was pretty good. They also had a pretty good World of Worlds series back in the day. I think that was also on Fox. It was okay. So Fox was trying different stuff too. Of course, ultimately, Married with Children was the big winner back in the day. But,
right, yeah.
But these didn't stick around. But still, to get 2 seasons of a werewolf show, not too bad. A couple honorable mentions. If you watch the werewolf episode of Friday the 13th, the series, I think that's a pretty scary one. If you get to check that one out. Werewolves have routinely showed up in anthology shows and TV shows. So if you snoop around, you could check some out, including the actors that played them. Like, for example, Lon Chaney was on a lot of old TV shows, playing all sorts of variety of monsters. And famously, I believe he was the guy who played Frankenstein in the live show. If you've ever seen this, it's quite famous. Lon Chaney went through and, as Frankenstein was supposed to destroy this room, but he was so drunk he thought he was in the dress rehearsal, and so he would just pick stuff up and then gently put it down as not to destroy the set. So this was live, of course, and there's footage of it right now. You can go back and watch the whole episode. So if you want to see, because Lon Chaney he had some drinking issues. A lot of those old actors did. It's the way it goes. Hey, listen, you play a bunch of weird creatures, sit around in makeup. Think about the makeup that you had to go through to be a werewolf or a Frankenstein back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. I mean, it would probably be like torture. So it's funny how it came full circle. They tortured people for being werewolves, and they tortured people to make them werewolves.
Well, and then, when it comes to Twilight, they tortured people by making them watch werewolf movies. So,
bam, there you go. So, we ran through the gambit of werewolf action here. Any final thoughts on the whole werewolf experience, Flack?
I think we covered it early on. Don't make pacts with the devil, right?
Yeah.
Don't put on weird belts. I think we learned some things tonight. This is one thing I will say, and I was thinking about this earlier. I've always said, if someone told me, hey, there is a haunted house, it is for sure haunted, there's ghosts there, I would say, let's go spend the night because I want to see it. I would love to see a ghost, right? To be that guy that's I saw it with my own eyes. Yeah. I saw a ghost. If someone said, listen, there's going to be a UFO landing in Roswell, next weekend, I would be there. If there was a flourish of Loch Ness sightings, a Loch Ness monster, those are all things that have been with me my whole life, and to go there and see those things, I think would be amazing. I have no interest in showing up when there's a flurry of werewolf sightings.
Yeah.
That was still like that. I don't want to be a part of that. Like, I'm not going to Skull Crossing and hanging out to see if a werewolf shows up. So,
No.
I mean, I think they're like, werewolves are definitely one of the things that I think you should probably steer clear of.
Yeah,
Probably maybe go out with a little wolf's bane or something.
I asked the chat if they had any favorite movies or TV shows. Steve Birds mentions his favorite's American Wolf in London, and a close second, Teen Wolf. So there's a little Teen Wolf love. Pixels of Dawn mentioned Seth Green's Werewolf with Buffy. I was never a big Buffy fan. I'm more of a Firefly guy. But if some people like that sort of thing, and that's okay. Texas Foosball also mentions Monster Class was his wife's favorite movies. Dave likes Teen Wolf. It's a lot more love for Teen Wolf than I thought there would be.
We'll win you over.
Yeah, it's quite surprising to me. Tex also says Ginger Snaps is trippy and worth seeing, so that's one you can put in your film catalog. Arcade Ages mentions that Hostel was awesome. I'll pass on Hostel. I'm not interested in that. Keyboard G mentions the Underworld movies. Yes, there was some werewolf action in the Underworld flicks. I forgot all about that, Flack. We could have put that on the list.
Yeah.
And so that's not too bad. And Porthal mentions that Sci-Fi Channel had a werewolf show called Being Human, which is that seems to be a popular choice. I've never heard of that one. So thanks a whole lot, everybody in the chat. I want to mention before we take this thing to the house that we would love to hear from you. If you're watching at home, you've seen the email address and the phone number flashed at the bottom of the screen. If you're listening on the radio, you can call us at 304-397-0755. 24 hours, 7 days a week, automated phone line. Leave a message about any sort of experiences you had, or if you saw werewolves, UFOs, anything. 24/7. If you see something and you just have your phone in your hand, call immediately. You can also email us at thedarkside@email.com for comments, questions, or suggestions. Would be lovely to hear from you guys. Flack, I think, are we going to try to go next week? Is that what we decided to do?
As long as someone doesn't steal $5,000 worth of candy from me, I think I'm good to go.
So next week, of course, normally we've never done a 5th episode. That's madness. That'd be insane. But we are going to do one. We've got a format in mind. But what we would love, if you have never reached out to the show, you're hearing us now via a podcast or watching us on YouTube or Twitch. If you've never reached out with an experience, a comment, a question, a story, this is the time, because we're going to try to gather up. We're going to try to cobble together any kind of action. We've got one story we're setting on now. We'd love to have many, many more to play during next week's Halloween episode. Next week, we're going to go very late. We're going to be going from 10 o'clock to midnight to close out the Halloween season. That's Eastern Standard Time. And I know some of you, that might be really late, depending on where you're at. So this would be a great time. There are no rules. Send us any sort of comments, questions, stories, voicemail. You can also text to that number. That's totally fine, and we'll get it. We would love to hear from you. You can also send me a private message on Discord, or you can leave a comment in the Discord Conversations From The Darkside channel, a story that you'd like us to read. Just mention it, and we'll put it on the air. Next week, we're going to do some very interesting interactive type show. It should be a lot of fun. Before we go, Flack, tell everyone where they can get more Jack Flack.
Hey, well, links to all my stuff is, you can go find that over at robohara.com/links. So that will point you to all my social media stuff. That'll get you to the podcasts. That'll get you to YouTube. That'll get you to my blogs, all the stuff that I'm doing. So I got it all in one little place now, so I only have to remember one little URL.
You know, TSI Matt says, I think most of our stories have been featured before. That's okay. We've been doing this for so many years. I think we've got a fresh set of ears. It wouldn't be the worst thing to have a couple come back. So if you've submitted something years ago, don't hesitate to come back around and leave us a comment. Flack also just released a great new Sprite Castle episode on C64 game Afterburner, or the games, if you will. So please check his stuff out. You don't know Flack, great show. All his stuff's great. If you're catching our channel, we don't do this sort of content. We're a retro gaming channel. We do Amigas, everything Amiga show. We do Atari Unlimited, ARG Presents, the Coco Show about TRS-80 color computer, R. Sinclair about the ZX Spectrum, the lovable computer from the UK. So if you're into that sort of retro gaming content or retro computer content, we'd love to have you stick around and check out our other stuff. Plus, we do other computer-related stuff, and sometimes just do wacky crap just for fun. So check us out. Add us on Spotify if you want to hear more content from us. I think we're going to leave it right there, Flacker. And we will be back at a special start time next Friday, Halloween night, at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, be seeing you.
You have just experienced Conversations from the Darkside. Until next week, try to enjoy the daylight.